65 years or older? Good news. Illinois has expanded its Medicaid health insurance program to everyone 65 and older, regardless of your immigration status. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, UAO, WhatsApp, SMS, IL65 to 773-420-8976. It's true. For most people, your health insurance program increases as you grow older. That's why the state of Illinois has expanded its Medicaid health insurance program to everyone 65 and older, regardless of your immigration status. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, UAO, WhatsApp, SMS, IL65 to 773-420-8976. If you are 65 years and older, there's one thing we can all agree on. Your health and well-being is important. Whether you are a recent green card holder or retiree, asylee or without paper, you're now eligible for the Illinois Medicaid Health Insurance Program. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, WhatsApp, SMS, IL65 to 773-420-8976. Documents needed to apply: your proof of ID, your proof of address, and your proof of income.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Ghana Agenda. I see Regina is watching, and she says good afternoon. Good afternoon, Regina. Thanks for joining again. Please tell a friend to join the show. Today we have a lot to talk about. We've seen a lot on the floor of Parliament as they discuss the 2022 budget, and we are going to unpack that. What does it mean? Has the budget been passed conclusively? And what happens next? When are the e-levies going to kick in? These are the questions I'll be putting to my guests. I'll be joined by the communication team of the two parties. Nana Daniel Amposa would be representing the MPP. Paul Disoso will be representing the NDC, and Afa would also be joining us from the MPP, and we will be breaking down what we saw in Parliament. Please tell a friend to tell a friend, share the link. I'm going to go check the green room to see if my guests are in. But once we start, please tell your friends so they can join. You know, the conversation is always interesting every week. I appreciate all of you who come back. Regina, my sister, thanks a lot. Felix is watching. Felix, thanks for joining. So we'll be right back. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we get back, I want to lay down what I think some of the provisions in the budget are and how they are going to now be implemented now that we have a budget in place. The position of the minority, and, you know, some of the things we hear from minority will really go into the details of what it means. For instance, the mismessaging. Are they sticking with the levy? If you are a watcher of this show, you realize that we call this. We say that, so I said even that, you know, I think both parties wanted to actually tax this foreign remittance, this money transfer, this new cash flowing through the system. So it's not like the MPP is like, the NDC is against it. So are we seeing that slow acceptance of, because we heard, Haruna, Idrisu saying, of course, that they're negotiating 1% and all that. So what is it? Is it like it's accepted? Let's move on, because so we'll talk about all this when we get back. Please share the link. Again, my name is Alfred Amuzu, and you are watching the Ghana Agenda. We will be right back.
Are you 65 years or older? Good news. Illinois has expanded its Medicaid health insurance program to everyone 65 and older, regardless of your immigration status. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, UAO, WhatsApp, SMS, IL65 to 773-420-8976. It's true. For most people, your health insurance program increases as you grow older. That's why the state of Illinois has expanded its Medicaid health insurance program to everyone 65 and older, regardless of your immigration status. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, UAO, WhatsApp, SMS IL65 to 773-420-8976. If you are 65 years and older, there's one thing we can all agree on. Your health and well-being is important. Whether you are a recent green card holder or retiree, asylee or without paper, you're now eligible for the Illinois Medicaid Health Insurance Program. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, WhatsApp, SMS IL65 to 773-420-8976. Documents needed to apply: your proof of ID, your proof of address, and your proof of income.
All right, welcome back to the show. So like I said earlier, today we are going into the details and discuss the things we saw in Parliament. But essentially, I want to also cover the budgets as we go through this. As we wait for everyone else to join, we know this year's budget's title is Building a Sustainable Entrepreneurial Nation. And then at the same time, we are going to do fiscal consolidation and then create jobs. So for me, even just that title alone, the fact that we are doing fiscal consolidation and creating job at the same time sounds to me like a very difficult thing to do, but I would ask my guest and then have them also contribute to that discussion. My camera is off, so let me see something. All right, so as I was saying, the title alone, that consolidation that we are intending to do, all right, we are trying to reduce our expenses because it is needed. Otherwise, we are always going to be in the market looking for loans. So for us to, cut down on expenditure, again, that in itself is not going to lead to the creation of the jobs we are intending. So it's exciting that we really wanted to create jobs, okay? But at the same time, can you do that with fiscal consolidation while you are trying to tighten your belt? Can that be done together? So that is one piece that I think we should focus on in this discussion. And as the panelists join, I'll be presenting questions in that regard. Can we do fiscal consolidation and create job at the same time? Yes, it can be done, but difficulties. So the challenge is in that. It's where I want us to focus this discussion. Now, the part about building a sustainable entrepreneurial nation, and my understanding of it is that now we have the African Trade Union headquartered in Ghana. The understanding is we are trying to build a trade platform for the entire continent of Africa. And the objective of this government, really, from what I'm reading from the budget, is that they wanted to create this hub of capable entrepreneurs that can spot opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities. And one way to do that is to do the Youth Start, which is part of the Bantampa program. So we'll be talking about all that, how the Youth Starts program is going to be implemented. The president is also launched the alternative employment programs for the galamseyers. We'll talk about that. My camera today. Okay, so we'll talk about the president's alternative employment program as well, and how all this together will be a way of focusing on building a nation of entrepreneurs. And so we'll look into that. We'll look into that. But overall, what are the broad medium-term economic objectives on which the budget is based? What are the broad, when I say medium-term economic objectives, hold on. Yeah, so when I say medium-term economic objectives, I'm saying that what are the 3 to 5 years plans on which this budget is built? The first one is debt sustainability, which means we have to pay our debts off. We have taken a lot of debt. People will quote you that this government has added about 200 billion to our debts. To now where we have, if you look at all the money we generate in the economy a year, right, we call that GDP. If you look at our GDP, debt is about 80% of that, just our quantum of debt we have, which is, it's not sustainable. So to be sustainable, we have to pay some of that debt off. So now, again, this is a budget that wants to pay debt off, okay? As part of the fiscal consolidation, we have to cut down on consumptions, cut down on some things in order to pay the debt off. Where are we going to get the money to pay down the debt? Where are we going to get the money to pay down that debt? Is it through the e-levy? Where are we getting the revenue to pay the debt? And that is a critical question I want to pose to my panelists when they join, and I'm waiting for them soon as they join. Oh, I think a fire is on already. Ready? Hey, Fi, welcome to the show. This Fi is the communications director of the NPP. He's a regular panelist on the show. Fi, I know you've been on. I just couldn't spot you quickly. I wish you could show your face so that the listeners could see you. The listeners and viewers can. Yeah, there you go. I think I just lost Fi. Paul DeSoso has just joined us. Well, Paul, thanks for joining the show. I've been here blabbing about the budget and the things that are in there from the standpoint of the medium-term objectives. And then I just joined and dropped. But how are you today? Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, Alfred, I can hear you very well. I'm doing very good, and I hope you're also doing very good this afternoon. I am happy to join, and I'm happy to be here this afternoon. And I pray and I hope that whatever we're going to discuss here this afternoon will be facts, nothing but the fact, right from the budget that people are running away from, a budget that they've presented and they cannot defend it, a budget that they are trying to throw dust into the eyes of the good people of Ghana. These are the things we are going to talk about this afternoon. And I want you as a host to be very, 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 balanced with each and every one of us. Keep us on track. Make sure that nobody throw dust into anybody's eyes this afternoon. Thank you very much, Alfred.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are joined by Efa again. Efa, welcome to the show.
I know Efa is going to laugh. He's going to laugh, but he knows they've been trying to throw dust into the eyes of the Ghanaians for too long, and I'm going to stop him today.
I like the humility of my. You see, this guy, he should have come from my mother and Katakasa. But you see, he is a brother from another mother. Today of all days, I like the way he has started, trying to talk to the host to tone down and kind of do this and no propaganda and stuff like that. We are going to be how we've always been. We don't change. We speak the truth, and we are going to speak the truth all the time. So, Paul, you practice what you're telling us, and everything is going to go on well. You are okay, except that sometimes some of your co-panelists are, but I'm sure that as time goes on, we're going to learn. So quickly, Alfred, yeah, each day you're improving and keep it up. We want to make this program one of the best globally. It is our own. We come here, you see, it is not a privilege. It is an opportunity given to us to come and, express our views and contribute toward the development of Ghana. And when we come here, Alfred is building a platform for himself that will help, with the development of Ghana, and also project us out there. So let us contribute and making sure that we come here with facts. We come here and speak the truth. Sometimes we don't get it right. When we don't get it right, let us eat the humble pie. I know Paul is good at that. I am good at that, but I can't speak for the others. So let us do that, and let us make sure that we make this program one of the best. Today we are coming to contribute our quota towards what is happening as far as the budget and going forward, debt sustainability, employment creation. What does these things mean? Are these politicians just saying it for the sake of saying it to get away with whatever they want to do? Or, there are real things on the ground, and we're going to do our best, okay? We don't claim to know it all. When we get it wrong, just correct us and we take it up from there. Thank you for the opportunity, and we are all here to help. Thank you. God bless you.
All right. Thanks for those introductory comments. I'm having camera troubles, but we are going to Paul, you're on mute, so we couldn't hear your. Anyway, so guys,
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that my brother, once again, Ifa is a brother to me now. We fight. The reality, we face it at the back behind the shows. And as he said, we don't know it all. We can be wrong. And I'm ever ready. I am one person. When I get it wrong and draw my attention to it and I checked and I know I'm wrong, I'll be ever ready to admit and then withdraw. So I think he has also done that in several cases. So, we take it from there and let's do this program. Let's, talk to the fact and data available. Let's talk to the, unacceptable things that is going on in our parliament,
right?
Which, I'm personally not happy about the way things are going. We'll talk about it and then we'll put our opinions and our views. What we think, we know, we put it across and we all dissect it and then look at, the way forward. So thank you very much, Brother Ifa. And then I hope it's going to be a very great show. I'm waiting for the rest of the guests and the panelists to join us. Thank you.
Right. So I think we'll be joined by Daniel shortly.
Sure.
Now, so guys, let's jump straight into it, right? This past week, we were off week. We were off last week, so we weren't here to discuss what had gone on in Parliament. But we saw a Parliament. We saw, I think, on the 30th or so, that the was it the 30th? Correct me on the date, but we saw that Parliament had rejected the budget, and then the issue of was there a quorum? Do they have the numbers to do that? I think if again you're gonna hold us to these numbers, right? The requirement was that they have at the minimum majority of Parliament in attendance, right? Which means that in this case, as we are 275, that's what is required for such vote to occur is that they have at least 138 people, but that the NDC couldn't account for the 138 when that question was put. Now, the NDC has other counter arguments to that to say that quorum was established at the beginning where all the parliamentarians were present, the 274 of them minus Ajwasafo, and that you don't stop and re-quorum the debate process, the debating. But there is this peculiar provision in 104 that says that for votings to occur, is it voting also the title says, to occur, that there has to be half of Parliament in attendance. All right. And then based off that, the majority in attendance carries the day. Then eventually, I think, was it Tuesday or so, or Wednesday, we saw, another session of Parliament again. This time around, they had the numbers. Again, the NDC walked out. According to them, the speaker, which is the deputy speaker, is also a parliamentarian, counts towards quorum. And therefore, they are able to rescind the previous rejection of the budget or previous vote to reject the budget and now pass the budget. So where we are now is that the budget is passed and The estimates would have to be discussed at the committee levels so that numbers can be agreed on. Essentially, what this means is that e-levy is a reality. Efa, what do you know? Are you hearing any noises about whether the numbers will be coming down from the levy charge, which is the 1.75, will be coming down? And critically, this starts from February 1st, as provided in the budget. What are you hearing? Are we sticking to the 1.7? And then what is your take on this policy to start with? Are you one of those who agrees that, yes, we needed the money, that because we need it, it doesn't matter how we get people to pay for it, or it doesn't matter how we pay for it? Are you one of those, or are you one of the people who would say, we have to look at the impact on the population, our citizens, the people who are going to be paying these taxes, and therefore perhaps it should be managed how it's rolled out? We know the two parties agree that we have to tap some revenue from there. It should be managed, and perhaps that the 1.75 is a little too aggressive to start with. Efa, let's go with you. I think you're on mute still. Efa, you are still on mute.
Alfred.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alfred, before my brother will start, I think we want to be very, balanced over here today. So if you can give each person the amount of minutes you're supposed to talk.
Very important.
Yes. Very important. So let's do first 5 minutes, right? Let's do 5 minutes each. So if you start. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, very good. Am I speaking on the quorum or just the taxes? The quorum, the decision, and then or just the taxes?
Yeah. So take as much of what you can.
Yeah,
if you can detail them all in 5 minutes, that'll be great for me.
Right. So when it comes to the quorum, right, all the argument seems to be valid, right? So there is the provision for quorum and there's the provision for decision making. So for instance, if you form a quorum and you don't have the number to make decision, then you can discuss whatever you want to discuss, but you can't make a decision. So with a 1/3 is to form the quorum, but it is not a 1/3 that makes a decision. So we have to clearly distinguish that. So if the provision is saying that to make a decision you need half of the members must be present, and then of that the majority decides. You see, now the problem we have to deal with, which I think is not clear, is with a member of parliament presiding. Is he considered a member of parliament and asked the quorum or no? Right? And people are making all sort of I am confused as to what it is. When you read on both sides and when you read at what the constitutional provision it is, I think we need an interpretation. Other than that, we're just going to do this banter. This one thinks I'm right, that one thinks it's right, and then we're not going to go where. You see, this is how laws are made. The executive brings it to the parliament makes it. So when the executive make the proposal, right, then they go. Then parliament will finish. The executive will say it becomes law. Then it's done. The interpretation is the court. So when we have a challenge as to what it means, we got to go to the court and then we take it out from there. But that notwithstanding, I think from the way the conversation is going, it looks as if there's some form of agreement that, okay, we have a budget that is, quote unquote passed. But how do we take it out from there for us to fully agree, which is some conditions that have been given by the minority so that they will give their back into it. And as negotiation goes and as we go on, we will see how best to go. See, here is my take on that. Yes, this is a hung parliament. The government cannot muscle its weight and say, I am in government, so this is what I'm going to do. I disagree with that. Sometimes the debate is going to be heated. It doesn't mean somebody is muscling out. It means that, let us all, consider both sides of the coin and move forward. Because at the end of the day, We are there for the good people of Ghana. The power that is being exercised by the executive, by parliament, and by the judiciary are powers for the people. It is from them. It is the people that are supposed to do that. But because we all can't sit down and be judges, be parliamentary, we say these people should go. So you are not doing it for you, you are doing it for the people. And at all times, we have to make sure their interest is important, that we move forward, that people get paid, that this and this and this. And then as we iron out all those things. So I think I am tempted to believe that even though there are still things to do with regards to certain key conditions that the minority is demanding, I think we are heading towards somewhere. Now, this brings me to the to your question of if my time is up, let me know. Or if I'm left with 1 minute, so that I'll wrap it up. So this brings me to the most controversial issue now that has dominated the budget, which is the e-levy. Now, everything seems to be okay except the additions, the omissions that they try to. The e-levy is what. So from the government side, if you have read in the news, government is ready to shift to 1.5, and then, as we said, we are not sure whether that is really representing what the opposition was, but the minority leader made us understood that they will go to 1%. So there is that 0.5%, which they can iron out, whatever be the case, whether we should stick to 1 or 1.5. But what the minority said, Haruna, that people are taking him on, that he shifted and all that kind of stuff. For me, from where I stand and thinking of Ghana and the fact that, you see, this is very significant in our political discourse. This is very significant. That for once, we've had them made a proposal that, okay, so it is important that we collect this money because we cannot continue to borrow. We have to stop at somehow, and the money is going to come from the people. Now, if you are asking me about taxing the people, for me, that is not even the problem. Do we use the taxes for the things that is supposed to, that we are supposed to use for? And for the most part, it's a no. Apart from the fact that, yes, when it comes to paying government workers, they get paid. You read the Auditor General and you see infractions and misappropriation and all these things. When you take
I guess the question I'm asking is, people have to pay the taxes, right? So you are really worried about, whether they can afford it. This is an additional cost that they have to. These are the same people who actually went through the COVID. It's not the government who went through the COVID per se, So let's not treat it like.
Right.
So the impact is being felt by the people. So when you're about to introduce a tax, you also have to have some sort of an analysis of impact on the people who will be paying it. So I guess so. My question then is: are you part of those people who just think that because we need a revenue, so we should we should just lay taxes, or you take into consideration, the people?
I go for that. I go for taking into consideration the people.
Okay, so
it is very important. You see, we need a revenue now. So if you are coming to justify an increase, then the question is, what have you done with the past ones that you've collected? Are you able to account them properly? And we have not. Government after government have not properly accounted for what, and these are evident in the Auditor General's report. So yes, we are kind of, I am also kind of in a hard corner to say government shouldn't tax. Right? You need to think of, you are always going to the people, give me more. Yes. And the people don't have a choice. They can resist it to what sometimes they are able to get away with a few of them, but for the most part, they pay. What has been the use of all these monies that have been paid over years? If you take our Fourth Republic, and that is the unfair aspect of it. But on the part of we giving the money to government, yes, I share the view of people that, government keep coming and taking. But, like leaders have said, in the meantime, that is all that we got to do. And we can only appeal. We cannot force it on people. We just have to appeal and say, please, this is it. But as you are appealing, please let us do something about the Auditor General's report and also widen the tax net.
Beyond appeal, we are saying that our government shouldn't just be taxing us, and we don't have to play with them.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Into consideration takes away the standard of living of the average Ghanaian.
Yes.
Who's working hard on a daily basis, making a salary, and if he has to transfer that money to somebody else, that money gets taxed.
Yeah, yes. And then talking about this, you see, there is a need for us to, you see, we always seem to be taking, just go and take the money. But we need to look at, are we taxing things that are not supposed to tax? Are we double taxing? And be honest and have an honest conversation and take this thing. And then people that are really supposed to be making the money and need to be taxed are getting away with all these taxes. Or they find a way to get exemption from government and continue to amass wealth. So, government need to look at those areas too. But in the meantime, the government needs to tax. We have to really discuss the percentage because, we are in a tight corner. That's what I'm going to say. We are in a very tight corner and there's a need for consideration as far as taxing is concerned. Thank you very much. I'll stop here for.
Alfred, I'm very, very. The way I wanted to open fire this afternoon, I'm subjected to calm down because I think Ifa has been very, very truthful and very honest with the situation at stake.
Okay.
Assuming the leadership in Parliament at the majority side, led by Oche Mensah-Bonsu, can behave and talk and explain things like Ifa had just said, I think this budget would have passed a long time ago. But the issue and the reason why this thing has become an issue is that the majority leader, Che Oche Mensah-Bonsu, is not a leader. Why am I saying so? As a leader and in government, it's not always that you think you are a majority. As Ifa said, it's a hung parliament. So that you need to get into his head for him to understand that it's a hung parliament. He cannot use his way as he used in the previous administration, whereby they were 163 as against 106. Like my brother Ifa said, look, the NDC knows that we need taxes to rule the country. And it's a fact. The NDC is not saying that we don't need taxes. Why? When we're in government, we also introduced some taxes, which when they were in opposition, they raised issues about it. We went back to the drawing table, looked at it, and then readjusted. Example is the VAT. When we introduced the VAT, by then, this current president led a demonstration. That is Kumi Preku. You remember that demonstration? What happened? The president by then went back, they withdrew the taxes, they went back, looked at it, sat down with the stakeholders, brought all people on board, did a lot of communication to get the people to understand that this is the way we want to move. The question over here is, why won't this government do that? The e-levy, I have spoken to a far behind scenes, and I told the father, look, for me, my stand is that, it's a lazy man approach to, but if that's how government is going to get revenue to be able to manage the economy, then let's look at it. For me, the 1.75 is too much. Okay, I was telling Ifa that we can go between somewhere around 0.5, start with 0.5, maybe a year or two, you can increase it maybe 0.7, so they move from 0.5 to 0.7, at least to take the burden off the people. Now, if I make a very important point.
And that's just one thing. They can also increase. I think one of the proposals that I believe the NDC gave them to was that.
No, I'm coming there. If I raise a very important point, my brother, today I am putting politics aside and I'm speaking as a Ghanaian. Right. Look, tax irregularity, okay? Revenue irregularity in Ghana is 12.8 billion just for last year, 2020. What do we mean by irregularity revenues? Whereby government officials, MCEs, DCEs, directors of ministries, other officials are misappropriating government revenue, which is 12.8 billion Ghana cedi. If that Auditor General's report, which if I is talking about, that 12.8 billion, if we as a country, both the opposition and the government in power, we come to the table and say, no, what are the loopholes that is making people to, misappropriate government fund? Look, the e-levy, okay, all the e-levy is going to bring at the end of the year is 7 billion Ghana cedi.
Right.
As against 12.8 billion that is misappropriated. You see where the issue is coming from. So I totally agree with Ifa. The government need to look at the way revenue misappropriation is going. It is increasing, and it's in the increasing order. I'm not saying it happened in NDC era. There were misappropriation. The Auditor General report came. We all saw it. We spoke about it. But it is rising in a very huge manner, which is unacceptable. Now, if I also spoke about something over here, look, this thing that I'm talking about, who is majority, who is minority, whether if 137 or 138 and blah blah blah, it's an issue of constitutionality or matter that needs to go to the Supreme Court. And I think a citizen of the state, the last guy from City FM, has taken the issue to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
We wait for the Supreme Court to give a judgment. For me, as I stand, or where I stand as I speak, my understanding, and from the position I come from, there is no budget as we speak. That we should consider. Because if there is a budget, by this time, the various committees should be sitting down and be looking at the figures and be doing some, calculations on it.
But they suspended Parliament until when is that? Tuesday. They will be back on Tuesday.
After Tuesday. Now, the issue at stake is this. I think the mistake that the first deputy majority speaker did on Tuesday was reversing a decision that has been taken legally. Because this one we all listen to news file. Okay, the question at stake is that, my brother Ifa, the day in question was on the 26th of November, which was a Friday. We had 274 people in Parliament as people who have registered as MPs who have come to Parliament. That's the number, minus Adjoa Safo, the member of Parliament for Kwabenya. Is it Kwabenya? She was absent. Now, this is the issue. You see, it's very sad and very unprofessional from the majority side, led by Chairman Sambosu, to be tuning and attacking the integrity of the speaker. Look,
you have 3 minutes, so just so you know.
Thank you. Look, this is what happened. I'll summarize it quick. On that Friday, Parliament, and if I knows and if I agree that Parliament was supposed to sit at 10 a.m. As at 10 a.m., because at that time, Japan, okay, I'll mention the name for you, Patrick Buama and the Minister for Roads, they were not in the country. The minority could have enforced and insisted that the speaker should sit, but the speaker allowed for bargaining, for coming into the center for them to meet. They had a meeting in the speaker's office, and they agreed that the NDC put some things on the table, that e-levy, a Japan, the Ketasi defense war, the Akai deal, and then the benchmarking. These are the 5 things that the NDC is raising, that look at it again and let's come to an agreement. And it was agreed in that meeting with the speaker and the both sides that they were going to reverse or review those things. Therefore, they were going to come to Parliament and they were going to give the Minister for Finance the opportunity to withdraw the budget, go back, look at these things, come back with it. We all sit down, we all approve the budget.
Right.
Just from a walk from the speaker's office to the chamber, the majority leader's mind has changed. The finance minister's mind has changed, and because they are not showing good faith, they decided to change the discussion and the agreement they agreed on. That is what made the minority also to take a entrenched position that day. What did they do? They tried to play politics, delayed until Kennedy, Japan, flew with Delta Airline, got to Ghana around 2:45 p.m., rushed to parliament, and a private jet was rented to pick one of their members from Germany back to Ghana. All these things we know about it, but we decided to let it go. So, because they knew that they didn't make the number, they walked out of parliament without not even telling the speaker anything. And if let's put, I'm not doing politics this afternoon. There are several days and several times that the minority have walked out of parliament. They went out or they went on the business of the house. So what has changed? But as Ifa said, let's leave it for the Supreme Court to make a decision.
Right.
Before I end, I want to state over here and there in that, yes, Ifa has been very professional today. The statement made by Haruna Idrisu, Haruna is proposing, as we speak, there has not been any agreement from the minority caucus to say that we are going for 1%. Haruna is saying that as a reasonable human being, he will look or he will agree that he goes for 1%. But as of now, there has not been any discussion. They've not concluded on any discussion. So the minority stand still holds. Our stand is that scrap the e-levy. If you want to bring the e-levy, of course, we are reasonable human beings. We are ready to sit with you on the table. Let's come to the table, but with that bad faith shown by Apenyo Malcolm, shown by the majority leader, it is not going to help. And I think my brother Ifa have ears in government. He should let those two people understand that in this situation, they need to let cool heads prevail. They should calm down. Let's look at our country. And as Haruna said, we in the minority will not allow this economy to collapse upon the head of Nanado, because we believe in 2025, January 7th, the NDC is coming to power. And if we allow the economy to collapse, it is going to have repercussion on us. So therefore, we will not do anything to allow the economy to collapse. I am saying, and I am stating over here, that we are here as a team. Let's all work. Let the majority leader or Chairman Sabu put away his arrogancy, his ego. He should come on the table and talk to the minority, because it is a hung parliament. And you heard what the minority, the note we've sent across. We are saying that moving forward, every decision we are going to vote upon it. If that is what they want, they will be at the losing side. We are not going to be at the losing side. And I think Ifa has been very, very, very reasonable this afternoon by saying that the majority should understand that the situation whereby they think they are majority enough is no more, and that heads should prevail. Let all of us come to the table. Let's do this thing for the sake of Mother Ghana, because you, myself, Ifa, and the other panelists who are joining will not be happy if our brothers back home in Ghana, January, February, they don't pay them salary. We are not going to be happy about it, and we need to do something, and something needs to be done. And that is why I am saying over here that let us all come on the table until this majority leader and those people in MPP who think they know it all, they stop doing that, knowing it all, and come to the table and sitting down with us. They are going to lose. We are not going to lose. The economy is not going to collapse on the head of the Nanado. Even though Nanado is a weak president, we will make sure that the economy does not collapse on the head of Nanado. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think you've taken about you've taken a lot of time, so let's just note that in there so that when the back comes,
I just spoke for 8 minutes. If I spoke for 7 minutes, I spoke for 8 minutes.
All right,
I'm looking at the time. I'm looking at the time.
Let me for that. Before you come in, Daniel is on. Let's welcome Daniel to the show. It's interesting that the two MPP communicators are on the road doing business. Maybe their government has sent them some information they didn't work on. So everybody's busy on the road, chasing after things. And the NDC people, the NDC guy is sitting in his room with no business. You see what happens when you are not in government. Okay, so welcome to the show, Dan. Dan, the question is that, should we go on with this proposition, the e-levy as it is? Or, do you think in the interest of considering the citizens and the impact it will have, that we should actually be a little, cautious approaching this thing so that we don't cause a backlash? Daniel? I think we've lost Daniel. Okay, if you were gonna come back with you were gonna come back. So if you can Well, yeah, go for that.
Yeah. And whenever Daniel comes, I can let him go.
You can yield, yes.
Paul, the president is now weak, right? The president is very considerate. Well, listen, so if he seems tough, then he says he's arrogant, right? If he's negotiating and get things done, you say he's weak. He's not. So let's get that straight. All these things you're talking about, we have this member, this guy flew in, or can we leave that to the background? Each political party will do whatever they have to do to make sure their members are in there. So, all things. Yeah, I think if we can skip that and focus on the main issues, I think that will help us. That will help us a lot. Now, so to the substantive issue, right? Paul, you what we need to realize is, first and foremost, is that sometimes we can play the politics when the politics comes in, but here it is significant and it is very key. Now, you see, this our attitude of something has been there, not done. All of a sudden, it has to be done. You see, it don't work like that. And I'm speaking specifically to the Auditor General's report. You see, what is Parliament doing about it? They sit on it, talk about whatever they want to talk, and then, business as usual. Is it a case that there are parties that are involved, so they don't really care, or what is it? The issue about tax exemption for companies, this is way off for me. When we look at the tax exemptions, they're making the money and they take it away. Why? We need to widen the tax net. Now, I don't want to go beyond the Fourth Republic, because this is what we have and this is what most people are familiar with. Right?
Yeah.
Why? Each president, Rawlings talked about it, Kufuor talked about it, Mills talked about it, Mahama talked about it, Nana Addo is talking about it. Why? Why didn't it? Why didn't it? Go to East Lagos.
No, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. I mean, the property tax part is being handled.
Come on, man.
Budget
Okay. It's not easy to widen it to cover the rich. It is easy to always tax the poor. Then let's keep quiet and move on. What is not easy? What is easy is that you don't want to do it. Once you have the political will, you will always do it. What is it that government want to do for the executive, for the legislature, for the judiciary that has not been done? Give me one.
So from what Paul was saying, that in the background, you agree that the e-levy was is a lazy approach, right?
I would not use the word lazy approach. Yeah, he knows the word I will use, which I will not put out here.
Okay,
right?
Of course.
Right. I won't put it out here.
That's the background discussion, yes.
So that will be a behind the scene discussion. When we talk, we are frank. When I call him, as for that one, we go straight.
We never do politics. We are very frank.
You see, when I'm talking with Paul, I am talking as a family, but right now I'm talking as a political communicator. People can whatever, right? Paul, Paul is talking some of the things he's talking because he's in opposition, and I mean I get it and I understand it. But the long and short of it is that you see, if we want to pinpoint one government, it is just our institutions and how they function and how they've given us things when they can up the game, and this is where we have to pin them and tell them that do more than what you're doing, right? Me, honestly speaking, you see, the issue at the end of the day, it is not even how much they're going to take. Because, Paul, you agree with me that when it comes to the talk tax, right? You guys said you were going to take it off, but you added 2% to it. You see, it is okay, but use it for what you collected the money for. And that has been our problem, right? If you tell us that, look at the thing that have been enumerated.
You were explaining somebody who would oppose this task. That's what the vibe I'm getting. The vibe I'm getting.
Okay. Let me go against my government. I will oppose it on a condition.
Okay.
Right? I will oppose it that I have not seen judicious use of the previous one. You get my point? So it is not the money I'm giving you. Honestly speaking, if it is, you see, let us be honest here.
Okay.
You're transferring $150, and government is taking, is it $3? Is it
The
$3?
the total is going to be $3.75 because the government is taking
Right.
1.75. The
And
terminal
Yeah.
will take
So
$2.
so
So the add all
so
is 3.75.
yeah. Honestly speaking, if it will be used for the purpose for which it's being collected, the citizen will not even complain. I'm telling you. You see the complaint, right? Behind the scene, they are not seeing what you say you're gonna use it for. And
that's a big statement coming from you.
that is okay. Okay. It shouldn't be a big statement coming from me. I am saying go to the Auditor General's report.
Okay.
No, listen.
Okay.
Go to the Auditor General's report.
Alfred,
And if you are happy with it
Alfred,
from the Fourth
you
Republic,
see,
then we don't have a problem on the
what
ground.
Ifa is saying today, I mean, let's cry for our mother Ghana. Look,
Right.
there's a
You
lot
get
of
what I mean?
rot.
Me,
There's a lot
I
of
look at
rot in the system.
I have always said
There's a
that
lot of rot in the system.
if you
which
will pay
we need to look at.
attention to the Auditor General's report and our civil servants, we won't be having problem because go there and somebody has been there for 30 years.
But what do you say to what the government is saying that, or Marafa, let me ask this to Paul and then you can come in. Paul, what do you say to what the government is saying that we can't continue to borrow? We know we have all these interest payments that we have to make, and we need money to make all these interest payments. Other than that, we would be borrowing to pay the interest. We have a huge single spine salary that we have to pay to our workers. Pensioners have to be paid. I mean, even government machinery. There's so much going on. There's Agenda 111 that has to be financed. There's Youth Start that has to be financed so that we can build entrepreneurs that are hungry to take advantage of the economic union that West Africa, Ghana happens to luckily be hosting the headquarters. What do you say to that as a use of the revenues from things like e-levy and all the other ways the government wants to raise funds? We know we are going to be held by commodity prices this year going forward because commodity prices are on the increase. Demand for gas is on the increase. We are drilling more. So what do you say to the fact that we need to stop borrowing? The government says they're only going to borrow 750 million and they are reserving the right to go for a second 750 million when they get a chance. But that is minimal from what we've been seeing, right? We've been seeing 3 billions, 5 billions before. So that is the part, the fiscal consolidation part that we would also talk about. But what do you say to that? That those things need to be done. Otherwise, we'll be borrowing. If we continue as a country, minus e-levy, minus all the other ways the government wants to raise funds, we will continue as a country that is borrowing. We will blow through the 80% of debt to GDP, and it's not sustainable. The World Bank is telling us every day.
This is not. Since the beginning of, the creation of Ghana, okay, as we speak, from the time Nkrumah's time until the time His Excellency John Dramani Mahama handed over power to the NPP government, all the money we've borrowed, which is sitting on our book, was 120 billion Ghana cedi, according to the Auditor General's report. Now, when the NPP government took over from 2017, January 7th, as we speak, our debt has risen from 120 billion Ghana cedi to 341 billion Ghana cedi. What does it say? It means that the NPP government has borrowed just within 5 years, 4 and 10 months in government, they've borrowed 221 billion Ghana cedi. Mr. Musu, vis-a-vis that fact, revenue between 2017 and us to 2020, the NPP government has been the luckiest government ever in this fourth republic. We are talking about revenue. They've cropped in 266 billion and 69 million Ghana cedi as revenue. When you add the revenue that they've made, okay, plus the money they've borrowed, the 221, the total money that has come into the hands of this government is 487 billion Ghana cedi.
Okay.
Now, the question is, what can we account for with this money? It is not an issue that borrowing is not good, and let's also put it on record. Within the ex-former administration, Mahama the time Mahama took over 2012 to he handed over, Mahama has borrowed 84 billion Ghana cedi, but there are a lot of infrastructure projects that you can see. Now, as we speak, Ghana's debt is rising to the sky, and I agree with you. We need to put a stop to it and find a way to generate revenue.
Right.
That is why they are trying to introduce this e-levy. But the question over here is that, are they doing it right? Did they consulted all the stakeholders? Did they speak to the telcos? And the answer is obviously no. Before you introduce such a tax, the wise thing to have been done, learning from the previous history in Ghana as against VAT, when the former NDC era led by President Jerry John Rawlings tried to introduce VAT, they didn't do much consultation. It backfired. It's the same mistake that these people are doing. I am telling you that whether we like it or not, we need to generate revenue. We need to generate money to be able to reduce down the amount and the level at which we are borrowing. And the only way we can do that is to introduce some tax. And as Efa said, we need to expand our tax net. That is the issue. That's the only way we can succeed. And as I proposed on this show, if the NPP government had sat down with the minority and the stakeholders and said, look, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, and this amount of money, if I introduce it, this is what is going to come out of it. What do you think? Let's judge all and come to a central agreement. They did not do all these things.
I think when you say expand the tax net, it sounds like one of the most abused words currently being used by politicians. What do you mean by?
Let me give an example, my brother Alfred. Let me give an example. It is on record that the total revenue of road tax we get every year is 72 million Ghana cedi. Now, you've been able to scrap or you've taken away the toll books for the reason that you are going to make people pay when they are going to renew their health roadworthy certificate. In every country, we are all living in a developed country, America. The ways the state make most of their money is from the road tolls. Now, the question or the argument they were making was that the road tolls was causing a lot of traffic congestion. Okay, if it's causing congestion, bring the engineers on board, call IFA, let them sit on the table. What is it that is causing the congestion? Is it the location of the toll booth? Then let's relocate that toll booth to a place where it's not going to cause congestion. Other revenue. What technologies can we introduce? Exactly. Yeah. What technologies can we introduce to cut down the queue whereby human intervention is coming in? And don't forget, my brother Ifa, as we are saying that they are saying 72 million is derived, I believe it's more than 72 million because those people at the top who is holding them responsible. Right. The leakages over there. You see, that is why I am saying that it's a lazy-man approach for this government to try to introduce e-levy instead of them sitting down and really looking at issues. Look, if we want to be truthful over here, and which I know if I agree to it, look, there's a lot of ways that which we can raise this 1.75 that we want to put on e-levy, that we can raise that 7 billion in a lot of ways. Look, example, look at my brother.
We only cited so far 72 million. We are talking about 7 billion.
That is what I am saying. That is what I'm saying. That
let's say infraction, there we get a 72 billion. 72
hold on,
million.
Alfred. That's what I'm saying. That infraction in revenue in Ghana is a big problem. 12.8 billion just last year, 2020. 12.8 billion was lost as revenue infractions.
So you think
why can't we block those loopholes? At least if you're able to target 4, 5 of these government departmental agencies where these leakages are happening, let's target them. Let's get a mechanism in place. Let's introduce ICT, a technology, a means whereby all those revenue is not going to go to human interface, but it's going to go through the system. Why can't we do that? Let me give you a practical example. If I made a very good point, and I agree with him, the rich will always continue to be rich, and the poor people will continue to be taxing.
Right.
Look at example. Take a place like where those rich people are across the motor. What's the name of the place? It just escaped me. Oh, it's not. If I was the name of the place, where these rich people are.
Sprinters.
Yeah, behind Sprinters, those rich places where the building is going for 1 million. That's another. I've forgotten the name.
Trasaco and Co.
Trasaco. Thank you. Thank you, Trasaco. Look at that area. Government can introduce a prime tax and say that anybody living in that area, if the ordinary people are paying 5% as property tax, you are going to pay 10% because you are rich. If you're not rich, you can't stay in that area.
But that will be unfairly targeting people.
It is not unfairly targeted. It is happening in this country. That is why President Biden has reintroduced a law saying that the rich are supposed to pay more so that the middle people will pay the same thing they are paying. It is not being unfair.
I think the solution, what you are really describing, perhaps a better way for that would have been decentralized property tax collection and property tax policy development and implementation, so that the localities, for instance, the districts can then say, hey, this district, this is the property tax rate. And if you decide to leave, then you pay.
That is another option. But the question over here, look, we all agree over here that the way they take that property revenue tax is even poor. How many of those money that goes into government cafes? How many? Let's talk about, let's be real this afternoon. People are paying those money. Look, a Ghanaian will go and pay money, he will not even demand a receipt. Even if he takes the receipt, you're not going to even look and make sure that if that receipt is authentic. And you know how deceptive we Ghanaians are. They'll go and print their own receipt, and it is happening. It is happening everywhere and be given to you. And I'm saying that when we block this loophole, the 12.8 billion Ghana cedi that is lost every year, just 2020, we lost as a form of infraction, revenue infraction. We can block a lot of loopholes and we can make that 7 billion. They are not supposed to tax the people through e-levy. And what they are trying to tell me this afternoon is that when my brother Ifa, who is a burger, Chicago burger, when he sends money to his grandmother in the village, they want to tax. I mean, it's not fair. It is not fair. So I think, and I agree this afternoon, that we are being Ghanaians over here this afternoon. We are putting politics aside. Let the NPP government get back to the drawing table. I think there are a lot of ways which they can introduce this 1.75 taxes that is not going to hurt the poor. That's going to be on the rich. So they should go back on the drawing table and do that.
Okay, quickly, let me take a few comments. We have a lot of people commenting. Regina says, thank you for me giving her a shout out. Togbi Hanyo says, please, let's share. Let's share. Thank you, Togbi, for watching. I have Patrick Senyo Adaju, who's the PRO of CNS watching us. And he says, good afternoon, my brothers. Good job. The director of ACO TV, which is our home TV, is also watching. And he says, Ghana Agenda, the best political show. And I think I have management from ACO Radio joining I think somebody in the background. So if my management is watching, so behave yourself, okay? And they are saying that my understanding is that in addition to Paul's point, the toll booths prevented people from living beyond those toll booths. So what this person is suggesting is that by clearing the toll booths, that people are able to now live on the other side, so that they don't have to be paying toll. But
Mr. Muzu, I think if I agree with me, if you look at it critically, the cars that are destroying our roads are those cars from Benin, Burkina Faso, Togo, Ivory Coast. I mean, if you're not going to take them, how are you going to tax these people?
You're putting the blame on the Beninois and the Ivory Coast.
No. The truth of the fact is that they use huge trucks on our roads, and it's a factor, and it contributes to the road not being in good shape. So therefore, if you are removing these road taxes or these toll booths, I mean, how are you going to tax them? I hear, and I think if I said the last time, if I remember that they said they are going to tax them in another way. How are you going to tax them? Let's know about it. These are the things we need to look at. And looking at these things, I think there's a ways and means whereby this 7 billion that they are trying to generate from e-levy, if they can find other ways and means to make and get that money, that's what I am saying this afternoon. And if I just brought that point on point, tax infraction 12.8 billion. Let's cut that figure into two, and we are getting 6 billion.
Okay.
We are getting 6 billion cool Ghana cedi. If only Efa and his government will stop, chasing or will start chasing their government officials who are misappropriating government funds, all those money will come to us. And also, if the president will stop flying in a $20,000 jet an hour just to take a shot in the sky, all this money can come back into the revenue.
Let's stay focused. Yeah. Let's stay focused. Okay. So before you come here, Rafa, there's a question here. It says that
is by the way. I'm just trying to drag a face leg. But
I know. So someone is asking that do we have effective property tax in Ghana? And I think looking in the budget this year, what I've read is that the government is intending on decentralizing the tax revenue collection, the property tax revenue collection, and send it to the districts, right, and the municipalities, and that the government would be helping them put together a platform and share the revenue with the municipality. Even some of that which I take problem with, right? Like, help them put a platform together, but why are you so interested in sharing that revenue? So that the municipalities can actually use that revenue to do municipal development, do the roads. And you don't need central government to get involved in, such issues or such expenditures. Tell us, are you also, or what are your views on the fact that without the e-levy and without other means of collecting revenue as we see it, that we would destroy our country by overly burdening it with debt, and therefore we need to be strategic how we raise revenue. And with that as a backdrop, are you likely to then say that perhaps the e-levy should be given a try? Let's see how it works. Let's see if maybe this time around it would be used for the purpose for which it's collected, and therefore we will see the entrepreneurship that we are trying to spur. We will see the reduction in debts, and we will see all the other programs like your famous Agenda 9111.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me clarify certain things, and then we're going to take it up from there. There are certain things I agree with. You see, with both you and we cannot continue to borrow at the rate at which we are borrowing. And I wanted to clarify the point that, so if you say before we took over, it was 120, let's say it was 120 billion, right?
120 billion.
120 billion. And when we and we've now it is how much?
341 billion.
341 billion, which means 221 billion has been added to it, right? Yes. All of it is not loans. I know you agree with me on that, but most of it is. You see, this is not sustainable. And me, I am happy that in the budget,
all of it is not loans.
Oh, some of it are interest and stuff
interest
like that.
payment and all the stuff.
Interest payment.
We've taken loan to pay interest, technically.
We see that exactly. You see,
so
me.
Technically, it's all loans.
Yeah. You see, what we have not done in the past, which we keep doing, is that government after government have not fully implemented what they give it to us in each budget. I don't know if we've watched these things. They've not fully implemented them. And then they come and they go above the budget, and then we get ourselves involved in a whole lot of stuff. So you see, for once we should pause and say, let us look at the rate at which we are borrowing and reduce it over time. Be able to be able to come to the sustainable. I ask myself, why are we not getting to the point where even if we are not borrowing, we are able to sustain ourselves internally? If we are not going to borrow, if we are not borrowing to others, we are sustaining ourselves. But that every year we have to burden ourselves, we have to go for this, we have to go for this. And you see, me and you, we have to know that this debt is our business. Debt is business. Yes, and poverty. I've been arguing with people and all that all this is business. People are doing their business out of it. So we should pause and look at, okay, so if we say we are going to do this to bring our debt to a sustainable level, what is it that we are doing? So you see that there are going to be less borrowing. Okay, how much are we collecting? Okay, are there going to be budget deficit? With the budget deficit, how are we financing all these things? You know, so these things are all very, very important. And then we got to look at it. Okay, so, and then another thing will have to be, let's look at infrastructure, right? If you say Muhammad did all these things, has a lot to show for. I can give you one project that dwarfs almost all these Muhammad projects that you talk about, right? Which is the Pualugu Dam. Now go and estimate the cost of the Pualugu Dam and estimate that against most of these projects will come, and you see that it is nowhere much, right? But that is also a subject for another discussion that we can talk about. Now, one thing that we have not talked about is that, you know, these telcos are already without exemption charging 1% on transactions and pay taxes on it, right? I don't know how much tax they pay on these things. Now, when they make this money, most of these telcos are not even locally owned. They take this money to their country, and they use that to develop their country and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So somehow, you know, it speaks to government. I mean, I agree with the percentage, but it speaks to government also looking at it that these telcos are making a chunk, making a fortune out of these platforms. And how do we get a little bit? So the focus should be on pinning government to what you use the money for and use it. And most of these things that have been laid, right, expanding entrepreneurship and taking care of some of our infrastructure needs, it is important, it is significant, but we must pin government to it and make sure that we are getting these infrastructures, because it is out of these infrastructures that we are going to get more revenue to be able to make sure that we bring our debt and, you know, financing of our projects to a level where we can rely on ourselves and get to the Ghana Beyond aid that we all ascribe ourselves to. Now, having said that, I'm not sounding political, but I have to make this statement, okay? So, Paul, don't take me on. Now, the whole IMF project, the whole IMF thing, the policy credibility that we went for was 918 million. I stand to be corrected. A little over 900 million, right? Now, if we were going to undertake a project, which is the something, you know, that we were able to make more than this. You see, it speaks to how government sometimes make and take decisions. And sometimes, in as much as we want to pinpoint and judge government, we have to look at the way we handle most of these things, so that at the end of the day, Ghana wins. Ghana wins. And not that we will come here and defend our political parties and stuff like that. That is important. That is key. You know, so that we can make the money, and then there will be less taxes and stuff. And then finally, before Daniel comes in, you see, we shouldn't say that we should, because we have to work on the infraction, that even if there was no infraction, there shouldn't be that taxing, because we are borrowing to finance most of our stuff. So you see, if we take all of these infractions and misappropriation and stuff like that in the Auditor General report, you see, then we are able to get more revenue, right? So that instead of borrowing a certain amount, we reduce it until we get to a point where we have a robust civil servants and honest politicians who will chop less and not chop more, so that we can continue to have these things. So the taxation is very important, but where you tax is also important, and what you use the taxes for, other than saying a no to it. Thank you. Daniel can come in now.
All right. Dan, Efa, you've said a lot today, but let's go to Dan quickly. Dan, thanks for joining the show again. Now I think you've taken care of that business, so you're home, which I'm happy about. The budget has been titled Building a Sustainable Entrepreneurial Nation, Fiscal Consolidation and Job Creation. We've been talking about the little bit about the entrepreneurial aspect, and then how we are going to finance these things through, whether it's through the e-levy and all the other ways that we are trying to generate revenue. But the question I want to pose to you is about the fiscal consolidation piece, right? In my mind, the fiscal consolidation means that, of course, tightening your belt, which means you're going to reduce some of your discretionary expenditures. You are going to pay down your debts in order to reduce interest payment to kind of bring your debt to a sustainable level. And so, how is it going to be to consolidate or to do fiscal consolidation at the same time create jobs? Do you see challenges in that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, I was outside, but I'm back. Yeah, I'm with you. This. I mean, fiscal consolidation and managing debt levels. It's a constant part of government, right? Every state have some debts that they have to manage, and it's all over the place. Mention any country, they might be talking about similar things, but the degree is often different for different people, right? So it's something that is not going to stop today. It's not going to stop with an MPP government. It's not going to end with the next government. Ghana, as well as Ghana exists, they will have to always do fiscal consolidation, right?
Right.
So
this is the issue. Remind you, today we are doing 5 minutes rule. So
yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
This is the issue. And that is why sometimes we bring to bear some of the things we learn in school. We have equilibrium, right? In economics, we learn economics. You have equilibrium. You can have a lower equilibrium, a higher equilibrium, and you can go back to a higher equilibrium. So you can have an equilibrium, but one level might be different from the other, right? So at what level of the, ladder are you, and at what equilibrium level are you? Are you at a particular equilibrium level where even though your debt is not sustainable, but your people are okay? Or you are on a lower equilibrium level
where your people are okay thing. I mean, to establish your theories of equilibriums, how do you gauge your people are okay with your debts? At what level is, a debt to be okay with the people?
Right. So the thing that people often don't know is that nothing comes free. Whatever your government is doing, if your government start doing stuff and you think that, somebody's going to pay for it, you might be kidding. Maybe you don't pay for it, but somebody else will pay for it somewhere. Okay. So if you understand these principles and the government starts spending money here and there, and you know it like I know it, I know there's a future time that is going to come and we have to deal with it somehow. So if I'm planning my life in that environment, I know what to do to get around these things. But if you don't know, you will sit down there and wait, and government will hit you with whatever they will hit you with in the future. And that is the difference between, excuse me to say, people who knows how the economy works and are able to read through things, and people who don't know, who just sit out there and things come and hit them. And then it's like a surprise to them. Nothing is a surprise to me. When government started giving free water, free electricity, I know it's just a management thing. They are trying to get over a temporal problem now. But in the future, they will have to reckon with how to pay for all these things. And that future reckoning is what has come now. Somebody can decide to hold it off and say, hey, let's hold. But how long can you hold it off? You will still have to pay for it. So you see how government has been smart. Government tries to manage that and get over a political, hurdle. And after the political hurdle, it's like, let me upfront, these debts immediately to the people. And then recover it in my first year, second year. By the time I'm getting into the next political cycle, I'll reduce the burden on them. That is a government strategy, and that is what the government is doing. So fiscal consolidation, we have to do it. If we don't do it, the next government that will come will suffer.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that you see yourself going from about 27% of GDP as total expenditure to all the way about 24.5 forecasted for 2025. And my question is, that is not a rate of expenditure, that's rate of expenditure, if that is enough to actually spark the entrepreneurial nation you are claiming that you want to build. The previous medium-term plan you had was creating sustainable jobs. And that's a separate conversation that we can have when we do the year-end review, or we review the year in 2020 to kind of evaluate whether we've realized our 2018 to 2021 medium-term agenda or medium-term plan, which is about creating jobs. Whether those jobs are here. Now you're talking about a new medium-term, plan coming out, and you are saying some of the bedrocks being that you want to build an entrepreneurial nation. But if you look at your expenditure that you are having between now and 2025 and the consolidation you are doing, it looks like you're not going to be injecting the expenditure required to turn that engine on.
Yeah, I get your question. So what you must understand is that this is not an entirely new program that is starting from the scratch. This is coming on the back of the NEIP program that was already there, led by the one that John Kuma was CEO before. So it's coming on the back of some of these national youth employment programs. So it's like an incremental something. It's not something that you are going to start from the scratch. No, that is not what it is. And remember, before in the previous, administration, they had, was it Ibrahim? I think his name was Ibrahim or something. He was the Minister for Business Development or something. And he has this presidential pitch and all this other stuff to encourage entrepreneurs, to give them capital and funding. So this thing is in that light. It's just an incremental upon the previous thing that
we shouldn't be excited as you're saying that we should kind of tame our excitements. Like I'm being too excited about what is probably going to be,
Don't get too excited. This is just an addition to that,
okay.
So
I don't want to take notes on that.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, that is what I'm saying. You see, I don't want to be responsible for people's, excuse me to say my language, people's ignorance when there's a budget and you don't go and fish out the right information and you sit out there and think that things come like that. No, go and fish out what government is saying. Don't just take what government says for taking its sake. It should be your responsibility to be looking carefully. But some people want to be lazy about it. They want to sit down and think that you want to hear everything that the government want to tell you. Okay, sit down and hear everything. The government will provide what they want you to hear.
But it should be the government's duty to kind of report a budget to us that is simple and understandable to the people and tells the people exactly what government wants to do. If government develops a budget and titles it fiscal consolidation and job creation, and government is working on a medium-term plan that says that is going to be, creating this hub of entrepreneurs to take advantage of the ACTFA, then you should be excited, right?
Yes. So, for information, there's one thing in budget that you have to do, and we all taught this in economics. When you prepare a budget, you want to get the excitement of the country, the psychology, the country behind that budget, right? Right. So some of these things are there to get people on board, to get people interested, because you are going to be working with these people. So it's a very good concept. I don't have a problem if you use terms like that to get people to begin to think, oh, what are they talking about in the budget? What did you start? To get people excited. That is part of building the budget.
But you're saying when you go look in the allocations that they've made to kind of execute, then you get to see the scales that we are talking about.
Exactly. So once you have this excitement, then go out there and find out, how am I going to benefit from these programs? How am I going to assess them? How am I going to do this? Those are different issues. Now you see that you've taken a number and you're doing a real analysis of the budget and you're asking real questions. Just from this number that you said, I know it's not going to be too much that is going to come in, given the previous experience, right? So if I'm in that environment, I'm a business person, do you expect me to go and be so much overly expectant, unrealistic expectation? No, I'm not going to do that. But if you don't go out there and look for stuff and you just sit there and just listen and not verify stuff, then you fall into this trap and then you get disappointed and come and be blaming somebody. You have to blame yourself. So I agree with you. That number that you said, I mean, if you didn't know that it was an incremental thing, you would think that, oh, this is a completely new program that is starting from the scratch. And then how would this money make up for all this? And that is what I'm saying, that it's not a completely new program. It's just an on top addition of what are the existing ones out there that they're trying to extend it in some other form. And then they've given it a different name. So for me, that creativity to always get the people excited and add things, look at how it got your attention. If they had probably said NIP, you probably would not have time to looking into it.
maybe I'm reading too hard, you know.
Right. So that is a good way of getting the budget and getting people support and getting the public. So for me, it's a good strategy, and if they can keep it out, it's fine with them. But then we have to be measured with our expectation. We have to let people understand what these things are meant for and explain it to people so that people can position themselves to take advantage of them if they need to.
Right. Okay. Great. So let's take the same question to Paul. Paul, my thing is, like he's saying, the fiscal consolidation part. You can even see that the decreases in the expenditure are really not significant, right? It's not like they are cutting down so much. They are going from 27% of GDP this year to about 24% in 2025. It's about 3% adjustment. But it is counter to when you say you want to create jobs. You have to spend to create jobs. You're not going to be cutting down on your expenditure and creating job at the same time. So it's like, if it's word puzzle, those two shouldn't match together, right? What is your take on that?
Hey, Alfred, you see, I mean, it's unacceptable for people to come and sit on this show and be insulting the intelligence of Ghanaians. For Daniel to be sitting here and be saying that Ghanaians got free electricity, free water, and they think they got it free, someone is going to pay for it. He's insulting the intelligence of the people of Ghana, which is unacceptable. And I stated it this morning on the fight we started on the platform that he thinks he knows it all, but he knows nothing. Look, Ghanaians can no. No, Alfred, let me make my case, because that statement he made here is an insult to the good people of Ghana, that they think they got electricity and water free and they don't know how they're going to pay for it.
But
And
I think
they have to pay for it some ways.
He's saying that he doesn't.
Look, I'm going to put on my political cap right now. No, yeah. I'm going to put that analysis is vague, is bogus. Okay. Because if your government, has decided to throw dust into the eyes of the good people of Ghana, trying to win election and trying to give them free electricity and free water, and for you, an MPP communicator, come and sit on this show this afternoon insulting the integrity of Ghanaians, that is not acceptable. And it is a big no. And as a host, you need to correct him. Because it was not Ghanaians who asked for the free electricity or free water. It is his 419 government who wanted to win election. That is why they decided to give Ghanaians free electricity and free water. Now, let me come to the physical.
So the Ghanaians need some sort of education to kind of be able to support.
Ghanaians don't need any sort of education.
When they are getting bribed and when
Alfred, in this country, Joe Biden, President, the former president, Trump, they all gave us some funding support.
And they sent out a letter with their signature on it.
Exactly.
I just gave you $4,000.
Does that make us that we think we got it free? No, we didn't ask for it. So that statement, he should stop insulting the intelligence of Ghanaian, which is something whenever he comes to do, I'll come after him. That one, I want to set the record straight. Now, let's come to the main issue. Look, what is he talking about? To reduce physical expenditure, this super incompetent government, which he is part of, they should try and reduce expenditure. And what am I saying by expenditure? Look, our president, as we speak, just left the US 2 days ago in a private, luxurious jet that we are paying $20,000 an hour.
Yeah,
when the minority raised the question,
$4 billion to the president, the machinery of
No, I'm coming there. Don't go there. Don't give me the feedback. I know what I'm doing. Let me present my case. The president is spending $20,000 an hour on the presidential jet. Whether the jet is flying or not, he is paying for it. And as we speak, this year alone, 2021, how much have we spent on presidential travels? Let me state a record over here. In 2019, just 9 months in 2019, we spent 64 billion Ghana cedi. Let me take it to the old currency. It's 640 billion old currency. That's the amount of money we spent on incompetent President Ado's traveling, because he wants to fly in the private jet and take shower in the sky. That is what his luxury or his interest in. Number two, to cut down expenditures. Look, Office of Government Machinery, as we speak, in 2020, the money allocated to, or in 2021, no, in 2021, the money allocated to that office is 2.15 billion Ghana cedi. As we speak today, in the 2021 budget, it has risen to 3.13 billion. What is in that office? And I argue this issue with Ifa off record. And Ifa was telling me that I know other institutions. I said, yes, I agree. There are other institutions that falls under that Office of Government Machinery. But the question is, if you, the president, you know things are difficult. Our GDP is not, doing very well. The dollar has been escaped jail. The dollar has escaped jail. A lot of things is happening in Ghana. And instead of you to cut down on expenditure, reduce your expenses, you are rather putting a lot of burden on the taxpayers. Look, if President Addo is traveling from Accra to maybe a first hometown, there will be about 50 luxury, V8 following him. What's the use of that? These are the places that we can cut down revenue, okay, to make sure that we reduce unnecessary spending, and those money can be channeled into something else. For us to come and sit here and be saying that, there's nothing changing, it's not much, and all those things. Look, if President Addo stopped hiring Jen for $20 an hour, that millions upon CDs that is being used, okay, can be used to channel something. When a question has been asked over 6 months ago, we don't have the answers as of now. Just for us 2 weeks ago, a member of parliament, Brian Champon, to tell us that he has advised the National Security Minister not to put the expenditure or the money spent on our president, which we are taxpayers. Where have you heard this thing before? Which country have you heard this thing before? This thing never happened in America.
Let's just be fair, right? I wanted to bring, as you're saying that, I think it's the right time to actually bring about how much is allocated to the
Office of Government Machinery.
So the Office of Government Machinery gets about
It's
3.04 billion. Okay, 3.04
increase. Yes.
Billion. Okay.
Yes. What is that? And I think I was arguing with Ifa, and I told Ifa that Parliament is also demanding a lot, and which I don't see the sense in it. Look, I am being very fair over here.
But
this money allocated to this,
at that breakdown, right? Because I guess let's be fair to the government too, right? They have a lot of things under them. They have the OGM headquarters and agencies, public enterprises, scholarships. They have the microfinance and small loan centers. They have the Nation Builders Corp. They have the National Identification Authority, Monetary and Evaluation Zongo Development Fund, the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program. It's under them. Home Rental Scheme, the Council of States.
You can mention all of them. I've seen all of them. These offices, the same offices existed under the former administration. All these offices existed. As we speak, the people, workers, allowed you call it, Flaster House staff, is in the thousands. We have over 1,000 people working in the Flaster House. What is in that Flaster House? So if you are talking about cutting expenditures, these are the areas that the president needs to cut down expenditure. The last thing I want to talk about is corruption. Corruption has eaten and has been given to this government. They should cut down the excessive corruption, the Ejapa deal, the PDS deal, the Ameri deal, all these corruptions. If the president wants to show a good faith to the good people of Ghana, so that his communicator, Daniel Apunsa, not come and sit here and be insulting Ghanaians and telling Ghanaians that they got free electricity and free water and they deduct it was free, they were going to pay for it, to stop insulting them, then his president to stop this corruption. The stealing, the thievery should stop in this MPP administration. And it's on record. I can mention about 54 corruption allegations against this super incompetent government that they, the two of them sitting here, they cannot defend it. It is a fact. What did the president do? The president just brushed it off. He cleared them. That is why we gave him the name the clearing agent. And you come and sit here and be insulting Ghanaians, say that they thought they were getting it free. Who asked them to give it to them free? You should stop insulting the intelligence of Ghanaians and respect Ghanaians for once.
All right. That's more discussion for you from the NDC. Let's take a quick. I wanted to kind of a little quick break in between this so that you can take a water break and come back and respond to Paul for me. So we'll be right back.
Are you 65 years or older? Good news. Illinois has expanded its Medicaid health insurance program to everyone 65 and older, regardless of your immigration status. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, UAO, WhatsApp, SMS, IL65 to 773-420-8976. It's true. For most people, your health insurance program increases as you grow older. That's why the state of Illinois has expanded its Medicaid health insurance program to everyone 65 and older, regardless of your immigration status. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, UAO, WhatsApp, SMS IL65 to 773-420-8976. If you are 65 years and older, there's one thing we can all agree on. Your health and well-being is important. Whether you are a recent green card holder or retiree, asylee or without paper, you're now eligible for the Illinois Medicaid Health Insurance Program. Need help to apply? Contact United African Organization, WhatsApp, SMS IL65 to 773-420-8976. Documents needed to apply: your proof of ID, your proof of address, and your proof of income.
All right, welcome back to the Ghana Agenda. My name is Alfred Amuzu. I'm joined here by Paul Disotu of the NDC communication team, Daniel Amposan of the MPP communication team, and Efa Amayao, also of the MPP communication team. We've been talking about the budget. We are looking at the broad economic objectives of the 2022 budget. We discussed debt sustainability. We just talked about the difficulties with consolidation and creating job at the same time, or consolidation and the revitalization at the same time. I want us to end this segment and then we will continue with the next segment. But I think, Daniel, if you can take 2 minutes to respond to what Paul said.
You won't let me talk?
Oh, you also have to go on this.
Remember that we have 12 MPP here, so you have to give me more time.
No. There has been occasions.
Yeah, but I also want us to talk about the private sector development.
But quick comment before Daniel comes in. Quick comment on what Paul said. Oh no, I'm not. Paul, today we are on the same. Today we are in Parliament, so. We are now fighting. Yeah.
I wanted to give a background of so that people who are watching can have some expectation of what the other things we want to talk about, so that you're also reminded. So I want us to, after this, talk about the private sector development, and so that we have a private sector that can service this economy. And then we will do the financial sector, a little bit on the robust financial sector, and government restructuring. Because if you work for government, I think you should be expecting some restructuring, and it is being clearly stated in this budget that people should be looking out for that in the next couple of years. So we want to talk about that too. Now, you wanted to respond, so you have the floor, sir. Lay it on us. Is it frozen? Efa?
They will tell you that I'm the one who caused it. If I is back.
Yeah, you are the one who caused it. So Efa, you're back.
You see, Paul is doing some tricks. Paul is doing some tricks here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, quickly. I think so when it comes to presidential travels, right? We Paul, you remember during Kufuor's time, you guys made a huge whatever about it, right? And you also realized that Kufuor went and brought a lot of development projects which we were using for our campaign. And then Mahama said, it is only the weak-minded that will use development infrastructure for these kind of stuff. So I think at this time, we should have had that. You see, there is the presidency and there's the president. At one time, it is just occupied by these individuals. So we should have that policy that guides them. So we should move away from this persistent, he uses this. I think when the president is traveling, it shouldn't be his prerogative to go pinpoint to people, I need this and I need that. So I think that will help us. So instead of Okujeto making all these things, what is the policy guidelines? And I've been always saying these things. Say, in the midst of all this, what is the guideline for the next travel? And then the next one will come and make all these things. So it is important that we take note of that. Now, as you are telling us of how much the presidential travel costs, are you going to tell us how much Bagman's medical and all these things is going to cost? That one you're not going to go there, right?
Yeah, you can put it on record.
For purposes of politics. I don't know. Can you tell me? Because all these things that you are talking about the president, hold on. All these things you are saying about the president calling, I don't know. I don't have no book. And when Okujeto put the question, he did not even ask for cost.
He asked for cost. He asked for cost. What hurt me is that you come and defend this unjustifiable. And then at the end of it, you don't even enjoy the plane. When he came to Atlanta, did you go there to sit in the plane with him?
I agree with you.
If I agree with you, we need a policy.
When Okujeto put the question, please, Paul. When Okujeto put the question, some of his questions, the speaker told him, this border on national security, so it will not go. This and this is what I will allow.
I agree. It's not every question that the speaker, but the question that is outstanding is that how much has been spent so far on the presidential traveling?
And Paul, I'm telling you that, you see, we've been debating this since Kufuor's time. Oh, Kufuor is traveling too much. And then we keep debating now. We will be debating now into the future. Why don't we have a policy that guides them?
We need a policy. I agree. We need a policy.
Yes. I think what I'm getting, my difficulties is what has this to do with the difficulties with consolidation and revitalization?
The presidential travels.
Yeah.
Ask for, don't ask me. Okay, so much on that.
If I talk about your colleague trying to insult Ghanaians that they got free water,
I'll come there. I have 3 things I've listed. I'm going to talk about your 54 allegations. Now, if you go to OH, you guys had like 300 OH, but when you won, nothing happened. So this 54 is something cooked. This is something cooked after Cuckoo Hill, right? So let it remain at Cuckoo Hill. This cannot go to Makwala for adjudication. Now, what Daniel is saying, before Daniel comes in, let me defend Daniel here. He's not insulting them. He's not insulting Ghanaians, right? What he's saying that whatever was it that was provided for free, government has to find a way to pay for them, right? So he's not saying that. Let us get it in context. He's not insulting anybody in the country before he comes in and talk for himself. No. And this thing we've explained it over and over again. Because Paul want to play the politics out of it, want to take it and score some political point. and also, to look good in the face of his people that are watching him. He's hitting Daniel so hard. But let us go down there and take it out from there. That's what I want to say.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, guys. That wraps up the session for revitalization and the difficulties with this whole consolidation. Now, what I want to talk about is some of the investment the government is making in the private sector.
Before you go there, if I just cool me down, I was heated, but if I just calm me down, seriously.
Today I am ice. I'm cooling down temperature.
Right. I see. All right. So the government is saying that for the next few years that it's logical for us to invest in building a robust private sector to take advantage of all the opportunities that we are going to see coming in as the ECOWAS community consolidation comes into force, right? Or as we begin to develop that market more. And so there are investments in that area. YouStart is one of them. And you can also say the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program, which was just launched in October, to reroute or to sort of find something for the people who were involved in Galamsey. As also another program that is likely to get people to be entrepreneurial, to build that private sector needed. Daniel, let me ask you again. Is this one of the overhyped speeches, or is this one of the parts of the budget that you say you think we should carefully listen to, or should we be tame our excitement about this one too? Because it is true that we need a robust private sector, but if you look at the amount of money is being dedicated towards that area so far, even the budget's only made a allocation of $613 million towards the Youth Start program. So are these overhyped, or are these things that we should taper down our hopes on? I think Daniel is out. So if you want to take that first, and then Paul will come in.
You can hear me. Sorry.
Okay, Daniel is back here. Okay. So I'm saying, do you think we should taper our hopes down on the private sector, robust private sector support, etc., etc.? You say you did agenda. What do you call it? Not agenda, but the 1D, 1F. You're supporting a lot of private entities. You build how many so far? Is it 74, 78 industries or companies open under your regime? Or new companies that were not part of our portfolio of companies before? Etc., etc. You are talking about people developing their digital or taking advantage of the digitization, building applications, doing all kinds of things within that sector to grow our capabilities and be able to export some of this to other countries too. While we're waiting for him, Paul, I said Paul, Efa was what I was going to bring in. Efa,
yeah.
Should we be measured in how we evaluate this, as was said by Daniel earlier as well?
So we've always been a government that believes in the private sector, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is why when you look at our policy on 1D, 1F, it is government, providing support for. It's not government is not going to do a wholly owned stuff. And when we came, we've done a lot of stuff in the private sector. Now, when we are talking about private sector, there is, as far as companies are concerned, but also in the agri sector, there are a lot of people. It's mostly privately owned. So as you support all those things, you are supporting all these sectors of the economy and to grow. You see, government hasn't been a good generator of employment. When you take the key government aspects, the military, the police, and all these things, maybe revenue collection and some of these things that government needs to use to regulate the system. It is not a sector that you can bounce your hope on to employ. What we have done in the past is, government take it upon itself to build all these factories. And what have we seen? We run them. The private sector has been the better managers of all these things, So it's just important. It just makes economic sense that you support the private sector when it comes to all these industries and setting them up for them to be able to, employ as many as we want. Now, so as we tackle existing companies and helping them expand, and also bringing on board people that are going to set up new ones we're talking about, we also have to take advantage of, individuals that have small businesses that can pick up so that they can employ 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 people out there, and for us to be able to help the economy. That is the way to go. And that is the way government is going. So when you read that aspect that is talking about the amount that you quoted, there are other allocations that are also dealing with private sector revamping, and all these things will come on board and will make sure that, to an extent, we employ these teaming youth that are all over the place. And if we don't go that way, Daniel, we keep saying, we've been saying since Kufuor's time that, the youth is a time bomb, and we've been doing this short-term 2-year, 3-year program, the youth in employment and this NAPCO thing. But it is important that we have this permanent job created out there where either people take on their own or the existing one we expand. And we also open up the economy in such a way that people can come in, take advantage of the situation, come in and invest, and then government supports them. If we don't do these things, there is not other way other than government picking up upon themselves. And government cannot continuously, because we're going to go back to the same old ways. We put up all these huge factories, people go in there, run it down, and then we have to either sell them or give it cheap for others. And I think this is the way to go. And I hope we're going to get support and the needed injection to be able to roll these things out. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So, yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about, but we have limited time. So let's go with Paul now, because Paul, you have to leave as
Thanks.
shortly.
So I just want to do quick 2 minutes, and then we can give the remaining 8 minutes to Daniel, because he's been dropping off and on, and his government is in power, but he doesn't even have money to buy internet to make sure that his internet is stable. So we'll do the rest of the history. I think with this.
Well, this is gonna be the last time you speak, and then we would not hear from you. Take these three things for me, right? We are talking about the private sector development, but also look at the financial, what the government wants to do in the financial sector, introducing that development bank.
The development bank. Yeah.
Yes.
So
then,
let me just take this two. Then you give me the third one. I know, because
I'm not. The third one is
I'm not as smart and all-knowing like my good friend Daniel Ponsa. He is smart and all-knowing. So I beg you, give it to me small.
Okay.
Let's talk about the private sector. I totally and 100% agree with Ifa. I will not. There's nothing that he has said that I don't share the view. I share the same view.
Okay.
Look, this country in the US. The country has gotten to where it is because of the private sector. And I think the private sector needs to be encouraged back home in Ghana to do more and to build more and to employ more. Government by itself cannot do all. We cannot employ a lot of people. And the only way we can do that is that the government will give support to these private companies, go into a partner agreement with these companies to set up and then build more, create more jobs for our brothers and sisters back home in Ghana. Now, one of the examples I want to give over here is this toll road that they said they're taking off. Okay, I think the government can go into partnership with the private sector. Example, myself and Ifa, we can come together and create a company. The government will hand over maybe from Obechebi Circle or from Kaswa to Winneba, and that stretch for us. Okay, I am giving you this stretch, this toll booth. How are you going to make the revenue? At the end of the year, I'm taking maybe $100 million, 100 million Ghana cedi from you.
Oh, just a percentage.
Yeah, exactly, or even percentage. Okay, at the end of it, do the revenue. When the money comes in, you take 80, I take 20, or you take 70, I take 30, based upon the factors that put in place. And I want to emphasize here, they should not just leave it like that. They should make sure that they put mechanism. Jeremy, come and take him. Sorry about that. They should make sure they put mechanism in place to make sure that the revenue that comes in will be transparent, so that when the revenue is being shared, government will not be at a disadvantage, just like what happened at the airport where Frontier Company was brought in and they are making millions of dollars, and the only money that the Ghana company got was about $2 million, which was shameful. And that is a no. Now, let's come to the financial sector that the government is saying that they're going to create new development bank. Alfred, for me, I totally disagree with this government.
It's supposed to start by the end of this December. So
I know. I totally disagree with them. Now, we have NIB. Okay? We have GCB. We have this other bank, what's the name, which are struggling. They are all government state-owned bank, Bank, and all those stuff. Why won't you revitalize, channel the money that you want to bring or you want to use to develop this development, create this new bank? Why won't you invest the money and make this as the ADB, agriculture development? That's what I want to say. Why would you rather support these banks? Okay, relook at the organizational structure, relook at the function, redefine the functions to them. Example, I understand ADB, agriculture development bank, is supposed to give support to farmers. They don't even do that. They don't do that. They don't give the support to the farmers. They give support to, business people. But the purpose for putting up that,
they're not supposed to be deposit takers, but they begin playing in the deposit market. And,
exactly. So for me, the government should relook at this issue again, and then rethink through it again. And then instead of going to go to putting up new policies, new bylaws, new procedures, and all those things. Why won't you rather rechannel the money into ADB, NIB, merchant bank, those banks that already exist? Even when they collapse those banks, these banks that they collapsed 2018, 2019, and they reform a
Oh,
new
they
bank.
made the argument that sometimes it's easier to actually create things from a scratch rather than going to repurpose, because Agri Development Bank obviously distracted from its core objective, which is to kind of provide development banking services to, or to loan money to small, medium enterprise businesses so that they can, we are talking about medium-term loans here, loans from 10 to 15 years.
Alfred, I can tell you, if you put me, I'm an engineer, I'm not an economist.
Mm.
If you put me on back into ADB, what is their mandate? What is their core mandate? That is what a leader is supposed to do. Get the right people, put them there, give them their mandate, give them set target. If they're not able to achieve the target, you fire them.
But we are
That is
saying
what
that
it's supposed to
they've
be.
deviated so much from that.
It is
And this
not too late. It is not too late. When you
that
put
has a business business model that is sustainable to them right now.
Alfred,
So
I am
why
telling you
not
that when you put them,
why not disrupt them and reorient them to what their
when you
original
put
purpose was?
Mr. Daniel Aponsa, who is
Yeah.
an economist, an astute economist, that is he's claiming this afternoon. When you put him there, okay, he's going to make sure that they return back to their main core mandate. I'm not saying that they should shift from what they are doing. They have developed that market already. Still support that market, but the majority of the help or the support or the basis on which you were set up is to help develop agriculture sector, help the farmers to grow and let agriculture develop in Ghana. I, who is an engineer, will put me back as the managing director, and you give me those goals, vision, target, and I'm not able to achieve it, fire me. That's what it's supposed to be. That is what I am saying. So the private sector and then the bank and then the whatever that the government is trying to build, for me, I totally disagree. But if I and then my good brother Daniel will disagree with me. I think there's no need for them to come out with a new bank. Let's re-energize the existing one, because I know ADB is on the verge of collapse. NIB is totally gone. What is causing these banks
NIB
to
is
collapse?
not all right, so there. Right?
It's still there, but I'm saying, just literally.
Yeah.
Even do you hear of them? Do you hear of them? That's the question. GCB.
ADB actually came out of NIB, by the way.
NIB, exactly. ADB came out of NIB, exactly. So I'm feeling that this money that will be channeled to open this new development bank. Let's rather get management skills into those existing banks. Let's support them. Let's push the money over there so that they can do well. If they're not doing well, fire them, hire new people. And I will be very happy if they come and they bring my brother Ifa, who is very good and very straightforward. I think he can do a very good job over the end. If I go there, I will then go and save my money. The third one you wanted to say. What do you wanted to say? The third one. I'll be listening to you.
The third one quickly is the pending government restructure. So there is a restructure on the horizon. Of course, we say that our government's labor bill is highly bloated. There are ghost names still. You'll be surprised. We need to remove them. But we need a lean, mean government to be able to take advantage of technology that we are kind of introducing into systems where we don't need people really lining up in offices and filling forms no more. There are so many avenues being created online for you to do that. They say Ghana.gov. It's a way to kind of harmonize all these government services in one website so that you can go and do your passport application. Things like that. So what that means is that we have to restructure government around the systems that we are deploying.
When you see, at times I feel very sad when I hear these people talking. The NPP. I feel very sad.
Okay.
Mr. Muzu, you remember when we went for the Economic Century Summit, whereby we develop our own grown economic
solutions.
And we took it to the IMF, and then these people criticize us, and you cannot hire people. Anyway, I've been hearing them making another of that they put freeze on hiring, which is a lie. The education sector and then the health sector were still hiring people. So that even information they put there is a lie. Now you are coming to that you're going to restructure. We are waiting to see how they are going to do it.
So you think that
The
restructure is going
impact.
to be freezing hiring, or
No,
because
hold on,
yeah.
hold on. Look,
Mhm.
when we put, you see, these people, we are judging them according to the way they spoke when they were in opposition.
Mhm.
Okay, we are judging them. For me, if you ask me, as somebody who work in a corporate world, restructuring happen every time and there.
Mhm.
In my company I work with, March, April, there's restructuring going to go on. It's going to affect some people. Some people
Mhm.
need to be going. Some's job will redefine. It
Redefine,
is,
yeah.
it is, it is, it is, it is normal. Okay. But
Mhm.
the question over here, when they were in opposition, you heard the things they said. We wait. I'm waiting. It's going to get there. How they go about it, we are all waiting to see. You see, when the crocodile comes or the lizard comes, the frog comes to tell you that the crocodile is under the water, and you are there and making noise and saying that the crocodile is not there and I can do it better. When you go under the water and meet the crocodile, you swallow all the words you said. That is what
Okay,
is
you
happening
have
to this super
effectively
incompetent government.
taken you have
They've
effectively
swallowed
taken
all
the
the
whole
words.
10 minutes
Alfred,
we
let me run up. Let me run up. I beg you,
you've
1 minute.
taken the 10
All
minutes we
the
had
things, Alfred,
when you
please, I
promised
beg
we're
you.
only going
I
to take
beg you.
two.
I beg you. 1 minute. They've all the things they said in opposition. They are
Uh,
doing the opposite.
okay.
And Alfred, I know if I has come to bribe you this afternoon. That is why you didn't play all the tapes Nanado and Baumia they made when they were in opposition. But on a lighter note, I think
Uh-huh.
it has been one of the good show again. And Ifa has really, he now knows my trick. He knows how to tame me down.
Yeah,
But I'm trying to,
now they
I
take
don't
all the
have to
bullets out of
strategy.
your patch. So anytime you reach
Exactly.
him, you take the
Exactly.
bullet, it's
I'm
empty.
going
It's
to go to
empty.
Facebook as I take the case out. I'm going to go to Facebook and listen to it. I hope Daniel will not play any mischief, because when he plays mischief, I promise you, next week when we come, I will address every single mischief he plays over here.
All
Thank
right.
you, and I salute you guys for good show. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming to
Yeah,
the
the
show.
kids, the
We
kids are
appreciate
important,
more.
man.
Okay.
Attend
Yes,
to them.
I have to take that. You have to go for their training, so I didn't take them out.
Okay,
Okay,
They
no
are
okay,
on
all the
problem.
me.
best.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
All
All
right,
right.
thanks.
I'm joining Facebook, so I'll be listening. So don't try to play mischief.
No
Daniel,
mischief,
thank
no
you. Bye
mischief.
bye.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging
Yeah,
in there. And that was Paul
Paul.
Sosu. He has to go. But Daniel,
Yes, sir.
I've been trying to get you in for a while.
Sorry, I think today my day has been rough a little bit, but I think
It's
I'm back
okay.
now.
All right. All right. All right. So I think what you did not address was the private sector development piece. So just like Paul did, if you can take all three for me. So, I mean, the government has made a lot of noise about, not necessarily just noise, but you can also see it in industries or companies that are springing up under the 1D, 1F. They want to continue to support that. But again, when you look at allocations in those areas, you're disappointed. So, again, it is where are we just supposed to be reading the words, or we should be looking at, what has been allocated to those areas. But I know perhaps maybe you are going to also say that it's a private sector led, so you wouldn't see much of allocations in budget, right? And also, if you can talk to me quickly about the development bank issues and how we should definitely approach that, whether it's important that we actually start a new development bank afresh. And the understanding is we are supposed to have one operational by December 2021, by end of December 2021. Where are we? What do you know? Uh,
What is a development bank supposed to do? I haven't followed that closely. I don't know what they're supposed to do, but maybe if I can tell me what that
development
development
bank
bank
is
is
supposed to
supposed to.
be for, it was supposed to be this intermediary bank that provides at least medium to long term loans because one of the things
Oh, I
is
see. I see
companies
where it's
can raise
coming from.
capital in our
Okay,
country,
I see. I see.
and the rate is really high. So if they get a reduced rate from donor partners or other participants in that, and so that companies can get it 15 to 20, 30-year loans and start significant projects.
All right, I see where that's coming from.
Mhm.
So let me pick the private sector one, like you said. Yes,
Mhm.
government office machinery is just to facilitate that. Right now, the banking sector was recapitalized, and the banking sector is strong to be able to take on these financing activities for the most part. Right, so the banking sector the allocation that were made to them, I don't think they've adjusted it because there are so many companies that are still going through the phases of the different processes and the financing that has to be given to them. So yes, you won't see a lot there because a lot has been put in there initially, and now the banks are prepared to take on that, and they are vetting them and they are taking them through, the internal processes before a loan is given, are doing all the risk assessment and everything. So I think that approach for me is the best way to go, so that people don't make it look like this is government money, free money. No, if you don't pay, the banks will come after you. So that for me, it's in order. The development bank, the issue with the development bank is what we'll probably call a market failure, because the market is not prepared to lend you long-term loans. And like I tell you, every business, once you start a business, it doesn't take 5 years, 10, sometimes even 10 years for the business to start, flourishing. They are painful points. They are painful growth points that a business has to go through. Sometimes your first 4 or 5 years, you are not even making a lot of profit. You are just, out there, trying to get your feet into whatever industry you've come into. And they will be learning mistakes. That is why people don't want people to hear. There will be mistakes along the way. If you don't make the mistakes, how are you going to build upon them? The good thing is that as you are on that journey, there is this advisory business support system that gives you, some advice along the way. You make mistakes, but the mistakes should not be terrible. That will drag the company down. But mistakes are okay. We should be okay with mistakes.
Right.
These companies will make mistakes, they will get over it, and then with time, they'll build their feet in whatever industry that they find themselves. So,
let me rudely interrupt you here, which I appreciate that I'm doing, but Efa has to leave us. So
Okay.
you and I, if you don't mind, me and you can hang out after Efa is gone. So Efa, quickly address this for us, and then you can take a leave of us. So the areas we are looking at is the private sector development, robust financial sector, example being the development banks, and then also the pending government restructure. Like Paul is saying, this is probably going to end up in layoffs, perhaps. So what are your takes on those things? Or what is your take on those things first? And then your last word, then you can leave us.
Yeah. Thank you. Unfortunately, I have to, but it's important. Yeah. So I made comment on government. Our policy when it comes to private sector and job creation. So it's still the same thing. We don't believe that government should be too much involved in, companies and all these kind of stuff. Just the basic ones that are necessary to put us out there. So it is important that we go that channel and support private sector to be able to employ and all that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to the development banks, I I don't really mind the multiplicity of it, but I don't also want to see a situation where maybe when it comes to the agri sector, we have more than one, and then they are kind of not functioning properly. So I would want to see as many as we can development bank, but specialize them, resource them, and make sure they are functioning as such. It is very important. Sometimes you see a duplication of some of these things, and you don't really get it. But government, and they sit down and they come up with, we want to do this, and some of it is political, some of it is purely management, and that is what they think the way to go. And so that is how it should be. So the goal to be efficiency. The goal should be really specializing if they are into, infrastructure development. Then we know that we focus on that area. If they are into, market women and supporting them, small loans for whatever, you define them. You make sure they are working. I agree with what Daniel said. The issue is not they make mistakes and kind of come back, but it is like you follow them and make sure that they are functioning as we wanted them to be, or as we intend creating them. So, for instance, existing ones, if for some reason they are not really doing, or they've shifted them from their core mandate, bring them back and let them focus, because there's a reason for which they were put there. It is, you see, whatever they are doing now, we know they will do that. That's why we define them, and the law says, be in this area, do this and do that. So if
Yeah,
we don't do that,
it is that the Agri Development Bank and the National Investment Bank, which is the NIB, were purposely formed as development banks to do exactly what this new development bank Ghana is now going to do, which is to be an intermediary bank that provides loan services through commercial banks to small businesses. So small businesses can go to commercial banks and apply for a loan, say for 15 years, to invest in their business for specific projects, and then that loan would be underwritten by the development bank. So
Right.
they wouldn't have a customer interface. That is supposed to
Right.
be what a Greek development bank was supposed to be doing to farmers, and the National Investment Bank was supposed to be doing to businesses. And
Exactly.
yeah.
So they should
So the
specialize.
question now is, should we then go and create a new development bank Ghana to do this, or should we
Right.
just go back to the NIBs and the Greek development banks and say, this is exactly what you were formed to do, therefore do your thing?
Right. So the new bank, time will not allow us to go into what specifically they want to do, but it shouldn't be, like duplicating what NIB is doing or what um, um, yeah Agri Development Bank is doing. Right. We can also, couch a phrase for them to specialize in another area, and as we do this, like Paul said, we shouldn't neglect these two. We need to resource them. We need to make sure that they are also resource enough and that they are doing their function as is expected of them. I mean,
Mhm.
we cannot neglect this and then go create another thing. Like I'm saying, the multiplicity of it is good, but it shouldn't be a duplication.
Okay.
It should be an addition, specialized in another area to help out. And I think that is all that I will say on this. If we want to go into specifically, like, this new development bank, what they are, what the core mandate will be, we can have that discussion and see where they kind of relate to any of these existing one and say, maybe can we take this out and put this on that one? Or that area is not tackled as far as our development is concerned. And then we look at that and then we move forward on that. Now, having said that, I know Daniel will do justice to this topic when it comes to the financial aspects, and therefore I will leave the rest to him. It's been a great show, but it has been a great show for a particular reason, right? And I will tell you, I will tell Alfred behind the scene, and if we can maintain that, that professionalism and that and the other reason that I will tell you behind the scene, that we will go far. Having said that, I've enjoyed the program and I thank everybody. And if there was something that we said that didn't go well, forgive us and peace out. God be with us and God help us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
for always joining and giving us firepower week after week. We really appreciate all that you bring to the show. Because of you, we are successful. All right. My brother, the two amigos. So that is just
Yeah. Thank
okay.
you, Abuzu.
Yeah, so I know you've missed a whole lot of the conversation, so I'm going to give you the
That's
opportunity
yeah, that's fine. The most important thing is, like,
Yeah.
this is time. This
Mhm.
In this country, everybody's time is valuable, right? Your time is valuable. You are making time for your country. So
Mhm.
I don't want to come into a show where we are talking about things that are not factual and propaganda. It's a waste of everybody's time. It's not
Right.
who is going to listen to that. I don't have time to excite people for such things. So come, bring the facts. Let's discuss it. Let's have we can have different opinion. That is fine. But to come and mislead everybody and waste space, air, and time, it's not worth it for anybody. I don't
Right.
think. I think all of us are busy people. Yourself, you're a very busy man, but you still make time for, this very important show. So I want to
Okay.
thank, Paul. I think that over the 1 month, I've seen that yes, he's coming to he wants to discuss the issue, which is a good thing. I don't see many of these people who are consistent like the way he wants to come to the issue. Some people want to drift very far away, and I don't like that
Right.
kind of stuff. So it's well and good for him wherever he is. I congratulate him on that, and I know, he will do great in his party. I know of him and one other person called Kingsley and some other people that are very, cool level-headed people. Yeah, so I'm with you. I don't know this development bank thing. And I'm beginning to agree with Paul. with what he
Right.
said.
Mhm.
What are we duplicating this for? The
No,
NIB shouldn't do
the
it.
thing really is that the Agri Development Bank at some point realized that, loaning money to farmers, 15 years loans and long term
Oh,
was not profitable for them,
I see.
So they altered, their original purpose for which they were formed to
Right.
now go into the juicy deposit taking activity and engaging with clients, which is now what they are formed to do. But they've done that over the years. Their entire institutional framework is now built around interacting with clients. If you're telling them to be development banks now, they have to close all their branches, which means we have to get other banks to take off those assets. And so the question is, wouldn't that be disruptive to the current business model they have that they are practicing that is making them sustainable right now? And versus just going ahead and creating a new bank wholly reserved for that purpose, which wouldn't need structures. You wouldn't see it in every corner of the country because it is an intermediary bank. Its clients are banks. That further on will lend to small businesses. Yeah.
I got it. I think that rationale makes sense. And this is, you see, you have to be this is what I say, the business environment change, the landscape change. So as you're in business, if you had a certain idea and then you go in there and the landscape has changed and you need to adapt and survive, so be it. Because eventually you need to account for the monies that have been given to you to run and you need to account to your shareholder. So if that was the reason why NIB and those people shifted and practically they've been able to sustain the bank, then so be it, right? It's not as if they've collapsed the bank. They've been able to do that and they've survived. And they've kept people, employed people, and contributed in those different areas. So be it. So I don't have a problem with that. But then in establishing another one, we should be asking ourselves, how come the NIBs and all the others couldn't stay? And what is the guarantee that this new one will also stay?
This one is not going to also
flip into exactly. So I think that is where the act and science of making this decision comes in. What is the data? What was the context? What was the environment? What has changed over the period? And I could say that over the period, what has changed is that technology has come. Things that before we couldn't assess people's risk. Now tools are available for us to be able to collect data and assess people, right? And be able to risk profile people in a better way. So the environment has changed in that sense at one level. The second level too is that we've already made a decision that we are going to be having industrialization, right? And some of this one district, one factory are coming up. And eventually they will need financing, right? So if you need financing, then this bank coming on top of that maybe makes sense. And we are in an after environment now too, right? So which means that by necessity, we need to be thinking long term and supporting our companies long term so that they can build that capacity to be able to take advantage of the after environment. So maybe given these factors, I will say, okay, it's probably not likely to fall into the same, scenario or the same trap like the NIBs did. So the thing is that interacting with the banks, like say being an intermediate bank, it's a good thing because this is what we call a market failure. Because when we say market failure, you would have expected that the bank should be able to do this naturally based on their business model. But the marketplace doesn't allow for that. It doesn't create an incentive for that. Because the risk is so much high that you're going into the long term and you're locking capital. You see the problem. You're locking capital long term.
The banks don't see that. So again, it pulls us back to whether this is even a sustainable structure to start with. Because if they themselves, the new bank, the DBG, would not at some point come to the realization that loaning to small businesses on a long-term basis is not sustainable and change to now become a deposit taking because if it was doable and it was profitable, who would have been taking advantage of it?
But yes, so the difference here is that this bank coming in, it's coming in for that objective. So I don't think if the overriding objective is to make profit like the existing one, then I'm afraid you're in the wrong place. I see them more like coming in to be supportive. They are not too much expected to make the same profit or have the same pressures of making profit and delivering profit to the whoever.
Right, they have a different mission. They have a different mission. Different
exactly.
purpose.
So in that sense, the pressure to be on them to deliver profits to their shareholders is not going to be demanding on them, and therefore, because their mandate is slightly different, that hey, we know this sector is a very tricky sector. If you want to be profit making, you will never get into this long, arm of the market and learn long. So, so government is prepared to take on that risk. That I'm the government, I'm going to absorb the risk of lending long by establishing this bank to do that on my behalf, so that the banks don't have to worry about that risk, that it doesn't make a business sense for them to take. And I'm going to do this through an independent institution that will be responsible for
it is a World Bank supported program as well. They are contributing some of the seed capital for it. I think the initial $250 million that came into it was
so that it doesn't make people look like it's government giving me free money. You are going through the same banking system, going through the same rigorous, application process, the same risk profiling process. And for me, that gives it some structure and isolate it from this, idea of where people think that when government gives you everything, it's freebie, it's freebie. No, there's nothing like freebie. If government does that, there will be a point of accountability. Like I was telling Paul, when government gave us water and food, you thought that money was free. No, eventually somebody will pay for it. If not you, your children or whoever your grandchildren are, they will be responsible for the bill. So don't look at these things in simple terms. Be wide open and understand how the system works. And
let's look at restructuring. I want to hear what you have to say about that before you leave as well. Government is going to be changing or kind of having a way to reimagine how services are delivered, how government services are delivered, how to position its current workforce to effectively deliver mean, lean, save cost, etc. What does this mean to you hearing these things? Does it translate to you like what the aftermath of restructure, which mostly leads to people losing their job, especially in these times where, of course, there are there's so much technology, a lot of even administrative works are being taken over by process robotics, where those mundane workflows that requires you to download a spreadsheet here, load it up here, something that you have a whole university degree holder sitting in an office to do, you can now program it so that the computer on clock, you can set trigger moments, whether it's time or whenever an update happens somewhere, automatically initiates the workflow and end it without any human intervention. And what this leads to is people losing jobs. Is that how it translates to you as well?
Yes, on the surface, people, that is what it sounds. And it reminds me of the argument when we were in this country and IT was going to take over. Everybody said, people are going to lose jobs. So you see, there are some conventional things that in your mind is very conventional, but once you get into the details of it, it's not it's not as clear A, B, C, D the way you talk about it, So I think they will get there too, because people will think people are going to lose jobs, but people will adjust. These are human beings. Human beings adjust to the environment. They are going to adjust. Today,
adjustments sometimes have to be helped by the government, where people are retrained, because it's not easy. It's not like a switch. You just now all of a sudden update your skills.
You are very, very, spot on. That was one of the things that in this country it led to some political ramification, because the original what we call blue collar jobs, right? Blue collar jobs. At the time that those jobs came up, it was the industrial time, and people were employed in the manufacturing. And now all of a sudden we have this
Ohio. You can see the Ohio
exactly, and those places are. People were struggling. People were struggling to adjust, and that led to some political and that was how Trump was able to win.
When you come to this country, a lot of the time when you first come to this country and you talk to people, they usually tell you to come to the Ohio, the factory, because there's jobs over there.
Exactly, but like you said, that time is gradually slipping. It's slipping completely, and so it was one of the reasons why Trump was able to win, because the frustration of those people were out there, and the jobs had gone to China, and they hadn't adapted quickly to switch and to know that, hey, we are entering into a new era. these things are not going to be the way. So yes, those things will come. That's why Paul said restructuring. Hey, if you're in this environment, as the business environment, things are going to change, and you have to adapt. So yes, some people will lose their jobs. Depend on those that are quick and are smart, and they know the times that we are in. People will start getting retraining themselves and adjusting themselves to be able to compete for whatever existing jobs are out there. So yes, no restructuring comes at free lunch. It comes with some cost, and you have to know what time it is that you are in, and then try and adjust yourself. So I think that yes, it's going to happen. But the one thing that I love is that technology. Our people are beginning to understand that technology is our way to go. And for me, I like that conversation. Not because government can do it all, no, but just the fact that people are becoming conscious that this is something we all need to pay our mind to, and people are beginning to see the convenience, the benefit. That alone will create a lot of good entrepreneurs in Ghana, people who naturally can do their own stuff. You, Amuzu, I will not be surprised you'll be here and you'll be running companies in Ghana. You'll be running business in Ghana because technology will make it so easy. You don't have to be there. You can be here and monitor everything that is going on your business premises. And I think for me that it's healthy. It's going to make us here export opportunities to our people down home by creating jobs for them, because we can monitor what is going on, we can watch what is going on, we can see it if we have the systems in place for them. So I think it's good. Technology-wise, that restructuring, government, the way government services get provided, for me, like I always say, it's not that customer service is something that is bad. It's a bad thing in Ghana. They don't know how to provide customer service. When you're providing service to you, it's as if they are doing you a favor. They don't know that it is you.
But that's going to take a lot of training and retraining.
Yeah, we need a lot of psychology to change that perception, and for people to realize that
definitely
it is the fees of these people that pays you. So
meanwhile, the jobs are not there. So when you get one, instead of you doing your best,
oh my goodness,
you treat it as though you're doing people favor.
And this is why I usually tell you. You see, sometimes travel gives you some wide exposure. If I hadn't traveled and somebody was telling me these things, it's even though I can appreciate it in theory, in practice, I wouldn't see where that is going. So sometimes I don't want to blame our people too much. I think we have to help them.
I think it's the family nature of our relationships too. I think Pato is watching from Ghana. Healthy conversation so far. Okay, Pato, thanks for watching. Share the links so others can watch as well. I think it's the tight family relationships we have as well, where you're not gonna fire the person. You're like, you're thinking about all kinds of other things that would happen if you had to take the decision to fire them, right? But in a place when we travel, the society is so diverse and people from all different walks of life that nobody really have that relationship with you where, me off I see and I brought her to work or him to work and therefore I can't really. You are fired immediately if you are not performing, And that probably is the bedrock on which what we experience here is able to survive on. But the one in Ghana is surviving on the fact that the way you even gain the job is through somebody you know.
I agree. That is also a big factor. That is a big factor. But I think with technology, maybe we can dampen some of those, factors, and then because at that point, I mean, like I said, if we can track everything that is happening on the job side, right? We can see what is going on, and we are human beings. We need controls. The way I see our environment, if you had a CCTV camera watching on somebody doing this job, a Ghanaian, I can assure you, you will get the best out of him.
Right.
It's just human nature, But if you don't put those,
they just have to know that they are being watched.
They are being watched. They will do what they have to do. I mean, one or two people will still be bad, but it will reduce the incidence of theft and so many things. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't be theft. Of course, we are not trying to eliminate the risk. We are trying to reduce the risk to a acceptable level. You get what I'm trying to say?
Right.
So we have some inroads to do there, and I think that, and I'm excited because I when it comes to IT. And it comes to the NDC side, I'm not too worried because I know the NDC, John Mama understands that sector. And he's very much into it. So if in the future, John Mama becomes a president, I know that concept will still go on. You know what I'm trying to say? And that is the assurance I usually want to get from all political parties to see that they have a future program that assures me that, hey, in the future, we're not going to leave this thing because I know that is the future. And if all parties are on board, then it gives everybody the comfort that, okay, all parties understand the times in which we are in, and they are prepared to go that route, so be it. And that gives me a little bit much more comfort that, okay, it is not a one-party thing. It is something that, regardless of which party wins power, they are still going to pursue that course of action.
Okay. Yeah, I know you also were not here before when we did the e-levy conversation, but quickly, as we've discussed on this program, even ahead of all the things we saw in Parliament, we knew that both the NDC and NPP are really interested in this e-levy thing. They both would have done the same exact thing, except that one is doing it so you have to cry until the cry dies down, and then if you inherit it, you definitely ain't changing much, But at the point we are when we are introducing this type of tax, it looks like hard times for people. So you would have expected that taxes like this will come at the peak of the economic performance, right? You have your economy growing, people are happy. If you introduce e-levy, they'll be like, fair enough, economy is working, But when you are just recovering from, not a contraction in our case, because we still ended up in positive in 2020. But when you are recovering, you are projecting to record a 4.3% to the levels of the 2016 type of growth, which is 4.2. All right, now too far from 3.4. And then hoping to gain about 6% in 2022. Still, you are not at that level that we are known to be chalking in Ghana. Like you're not making 11, 12, 13%. And I believe that if you were introducing this at the time when we are making at least 9 to 8, 10% of GDP growth, which, perhaps will be felt by the people, because when they happen, you do see the effect, right? It will be a bit easier to take, but at this time, it just looked like a hard thing to do. But what is your take on it? Others are saying that because we've built the systems that we've been talking about, we build this, the national ID card or ID number being used as a base on which people are opening their digital wallet, which is the Momo account or whatever they use for their transactions, that at the end of the year, the government has access to, or they can work with the telcos to get access to the total transactions or the universe of transactions that has been conducted by an individual through their wallets, and require that individual to file a sort of a return to show that transaction ABCD was due to receipts I made as gifts to me. If they are gifts, we have gift tax in Ghana, and you're supposed to just pay the gift tax according to the law. If they are business transactions, you would have to pay taxes based on the business to which they relate. So we can collect taxes on Momo transactions and perhaps other bank transfers without necessarily imposing just a 1.7 flat rate on every transaction. That even it will make it more progressive this way, because you can vary the tax depending on what a transaction. To be honest, gift tax is more than 1.75% of the transaction value. If it is business, if it's related to other businesses, then you can count on all kinds of other things coming in, like VAT and all the other things we are supposed to be collecting on those business transactions to start with. So just slapping a 1.75% is kind of lazy, and that it is not a well or a deeper it's heuristic sort of analysis, and it's not using the second system thinking, which is more slow, more methodic, and evaluating of all the options and the components in order to arrive at a good decision.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think some of those argument holds in theory. Those are very good arguments to make, and this is where sometimes I speak to practice and theory. Right? There are some things that in theory looks very appealing. It looks very okay, but in practice, you don't get them one to one. You get what I'm trying to say? It's just like speak to any econometrician. When you want to build an econometrics model, they will start build a very flamboyant theoretical model and lay it out. But once they start getting into the data collection and affirming or confirming whatever theory they had in place. They start seeing challenges and they start revising the actual or final model that will be put out there based on the data that they're seeing. So yes, if we said gift tax, I mean, Amuju, on an electronic platform, somebody know you're going to charge them a gift tax. Who's going to send something to somebody and label it gift? So you see the practical.
But if it is not gift, then it's something else, right?
Right. So how are you going to know that?
Yeah. So that's something else. Would also have its tax category. For instance, if it's a business transaction, then
I know. I'm speaking. So I'm speaking to the different category. Like you said, if it's not a gift tax, then it must be something else.
Yes.
How are you going to know that it must be something else? How are you going to know?
You have to disclose it. That's why you put in the onus on the person to disclose it.
Okay,
they have to file their tax return telling you that of the $60,000 that flew through my account, 20% is gift. The other percent is business. Because if it's not gift, it's business. If it is loan, then you have to state it's loan. And then we would then tax those various activities. Why would it be taxing somebody who's just getting loan?
Yes, I think I see your point. Amuji, this is where you are an accountant. This is where the accounting comes in, because you now have to configure systems. Those systems, you have to make sure that, the people who are going to be down there implementing these things have systems that are configured to be able to categorize all these different transactions. You see the practical difficulty that we are talking about here. So
you do a tax form and you put it on it so that when the individual at the end of the year is filing their taxes and they report their total Momo transactions, they just do those breakdowns and check
that is one aspect. But I'm talking about, because you are going to collect this money eventually, right? From somebody, maybe the banks or whoever owns that platform. They will have to configure all this platform for all these different things. And then let people choose the option.
The money comes at the end of the year. So basically, it comes at the end of the tax period, right? The tax period to which you file, then the government will bill you towards it. When they bill you and you did not pay, I have thought, so for instance, if they bill you did not pay, then it goes to become a late payment to which the government should have a way of managing those late payments. Whether you can renew your driver's license or you can renew your IDs because you have late payments in the system and etc. And they even use those late payments. I've seen so many different states that to determine the late payment fees based on specific projects that they want to target. They can say 2% of late payment fees goes to Get Fund. So there is just so much that could be considered in all this,
So yes, like I said, this things, like, they are still not off the table, because this is just the initial policy proposal. It's about the implementation of, putting all these systems in place, right? Because you are not just going to say the way you are saying. You have to follow it up with some other, steps that has to be done. So what I know in tax is that sometimes, because of this complication, they will usually have a simple average tax rate, just to avoid all these, very fine details of differentiating things and being exact, and they'll just put a small average across the board to make it easy for whoever is administering that policy to be able to, calculate and collect the money and allow for compliance. And therefore, so it might not be the optimal, but it's just a simple average to just get around all these other issues.
So you are also just speaking to the lazy fact, right? The fact that
So that is sometimes the idea. Why? So you see that some of the taxes might not necessarily be at the efficient level, like you are saying, because of these things, And so I get where they are coming from. So I think government just thought that, hey, just making a simple 1 point something is going to be easy for me to assess and collect and track and monitor compliance, instead of getting into the nitty-gritties of all these different shades of things, until somebody goes to court and say, hey, you are doing some silly things here. It doesn't make sense. It's against this. And then that will force you to think. That is why I always tell people, do not be afraid when people go to court challenging government. It helps. It's for our own good. So some of these things, some of them will have to come through legal challenges, and then the people will adapt and then begin to implement courts ruling, and it helps the system, and we are all better off for it. So I think, on a very simple level, I have said the rate is high. I think that every policy is subject to calibration. Start from somewhere and then see what the difficulties are with it. See what the challenges are with it. And you're always a government. You can always calibrate. And I've also said that whenever there's a pandemic or there's a crisis, the whole world recognizes that there's a pandemic. A pandemic, of course, is going to come with some cost. That is why it is called a pandemic. So if you run into a pandemic and it comes with some cost, do not seek to recover all the costs within 5 years, 6 years. No, definitely there will be some costs that we'll have to keep because we went into a pandemic, right? So let's be realistic to ourselves. We
kind
cannot
of
seek to
realize all the impact in one go. Let's kind of spread it out a little bit.
let's tell it, because that is why it's a pandemic. It's going to affect
And that
everybody.
is caring for our people and being responsive to the needs of our citizens. You know,
Exactly. So I've told government, hey, take some of the cost of the pandemic. That is something you have to bear. Don't try to recoup everything from the citizens or from the people. We have to live with some cost of a pandemic. Otherwise,
the
then what is the
government
point?
doesn't have a way to pay for itself, right? You always have to go get it from the people.
Yeah, so be a little bit mindful about it, because the World Bank recognize that it's not your fault. It's not any government fault that there's a pandemic. We know that. So we are human beings. Let's be, sensitive to this, and let's engage our development partners. Whoever we owe money, let's engage them. They also know, right? So my only thing is that if you go there, you can't just go and say it's pandemic. You have to be able to differentiate the impact of the pandemic on what you were doing before. Then that way they can trust that, what you were doing before was okay, you were not in the hole, and that it was not the pandemic that really cost you. So you have to be able to justify all this. And if government thinks that indeed the pandemic has cost a lot, you should be able to justify this with ease, unless maybe you were already struggling before the pandemic, and then you can't go and justify that, and then that is where you want to put everything on the pandemic. You get what I'm trying to say?
I will put a dot on that statement if you're struggling before the pandemic.
Yes. So and I think that those are some of the things, but some of the decisions, Amuju, it's not every decision. That is why we call it the political economy. It's not every decision that comes with that economic efficiency. If you were thinking strictly in economic terms, you will look for that efficiency. But no, when in politics there's something they call political economy, you will suffer some of this inefficiency because of political reasons, other than economic reasons.
People want to hurry up and take that revenue. You know, political parties don't want to have that much revenue in their head. Anyway, so I mean, it's been great. I mean, if they do what we are describing here, for instance, all the ways of trying to have people to report back maybe periodically of the transactions going through the accounts, and have a way of categorizing those transactions and being able to tax them appropriately, passing the appropriate tax laws, policies, and having regulations to implement those policies. If all these things are properly done, we will then have an efficient country.
The reason why I support this thing is
what the investor needs is some sort of predictability. But right now, it looks like every budget comes with some sort of unpredictable tax that is going to come, you know.
Yeah, the reason why I like the e-tax is that I said, even if not the MPP, any future government will not run away from e-tax. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. You get what I'm trying to say? It's a question of time when you are going to do it. So that is why I said the NDC should be mindful. Otherwise, if they say we don't like it,
the NDC kind of just wobble into.
Yes, I think strategically that is a better way. So that in the future, if you're in government, nobody says that scrap it off. You say,
so you see the NDC starting from.
Yes, and I think Haruna's position.
There's even miscommunication from the camp right now.
I get it, and because
one thing,
but I think Haruna's position. Haruna's position strategically in the long term, it's good for them.
Yeah, it looks like gradually that's where they're going.
Yes,
so
it's good for the
let's not be fooled that e-tax is now a reality.
It's a reality. So, but the good thing is that I want Ghanaians, everybody, to feel the pinch of paying a tax. That for me, it's my reason why I support this for the most part. Because I think that often when we talk about corruption and we talk about government waste, some people think that they don't. I say I don't care. Right. So even when there's a demonstration to demonstrate against waste and corruption and government waste, and you have independent people fighting and saying, come out and support the demonstration, people sit back and they don't care. Why? Because they are not seeing the direct effect of what we are talking about. They think it's for some exclusive, middle class people who are being charged all the taxes and they can feel it. So it's their responsibility to go and defend or fight against that corruption or join that demonstration. You get what I'm trying to say? So I think that this will begin to force people to think that, hey, And if government is not doing your project,
But
or you are not,
the thing is, people don't have the money. So I mean,
why?
even though we want to show them some lesson, this is a very hard lesson for us to show at this time when we are trying to recover from some
I'm with
pandemic.
you. I can tell you that
The
nobody
pandemic
has
has
ever.
introduced a lot of inequalities where people are not necessarily able to work from home, like perhaps you and I, but have to go back on the street every day and put themselves at risk at catching, COVID. And then at the same time, the government is squeezing the last monies they get in their pocket through some transfer. So it's just the timing is kind of really bad,
I'm with you. Yes, the timing, regardless of any time that you introduce this, people will have the same argument to raise. Do you remember VAT? VAT had the same argument from the MPP side. That things were hard, this and this. Regardless of any time, I'm with you. I've never seen any time in the history of Ghana where everybody has said, "Oh, we are okay." Every time in the history of any political party, people say we are struggling. So, at what point are we going to say people are not struggling? Let's put it. So, as for that, I don't even want to go into that. At any point that you put it, this same argument will come up again. So,
Okay.
It's not new. Have you ever, since you were a young guy, have you heard of anybody who said in any government that ever lived that you saw that we are okay? That generally things are okay. Even when things were okay, the politicians on the other side will create difficulties and say things are not okay. So
I think a good way to wrap all that up is change is difficult, and it takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of work to actually manage change effectively. So hopefully our prayer that our government will find it within its setup of skill sets that they have at the government, within the government machinery, and maybe within ministries, and even maybe in opposition, to help manage this change in a way that makes it acceptable. And
can I add something before you go? Yeah,
sure.
You see, there was this probe that I thought was one of the best probe I've ever seen in this Fourth Republic. The probe about the health minister and the vaccine. You saw how that probe went on in Parliament, and the cameras were there, and they were questioning the minister, and the people who were on the panel, they just did not come to do propaganda. They came prepared, and they were asking real, you could see that, yes, people were serious, asking accountability. Oftentimes, that is the problem I have with our Parliament. You see, that the signaling of what they did with that minister, if they keep doing that over time, and they can invite institutions, not blame it on politicians, invite public servants to come and sit down and question them on how they are spending money in their institution and what they are doing. If they do that over time, and the Parliament can get time to do that, I tell you, people will start sitting up.
I mean, this is the best thing to actually have that happen, because we have sort of a hung parliament where we have 137 on each side with one independent. So if there's any time in our history that we can actually get to experience more of that, this is the time.
Yes.
We've seen even look at the fight over the budget, right? So like I said, it's a good time for that to actually happen.
So I'll encourage the House, please keep to that and do that consistently for the Ghanaian people. That way, you see, sometimes it's not just even jailing the people, just putting them before the cameras and letting the whole world know what they're doing.
I mean, if they committed an illegal act, they should definitely be jailed, right?
I get it, yes. But I'm just speaking that just even beyond jailing people, just that act alone.
Yeah, it has kind of put the fear into people who would say, hey, I would have to go face a very robust parliament to answer questions. And I don't want to do that looking at the examples from my other colleague ministers, and kind of serve as a deterrent.
And then the politicization will be out, because people can now see that you are asking the question, and whoever is answering them will have no choice than to provide the answers. So I think that we need more of that, and I want to urge Parliament to keep more of those things and let the media be there to cover it. Because think about it. Look at how election 2012 petition and even the 2020 petition, when they broadcast it, these things have some psychological effect on people. So the value of it, if we can keep doing that and holding public officials accountable and having this camera, I think that the value of that will be great to our country, and people will be beginning to sit up and know that, hey, tomorrow I can be called to that big house to answer to questions, and it's not going to be a child's play sitting before these big men and they're asking you all these questions and you need to answer to it. So I will encourage Parliament to do more of that, and that should bring some of the accountability questions to bear that we've been asking. We've been approving this budget. How do we know, Amuzu, how this money was spent? Who tracks that? Who even monitors that? The Ghanaian people can't see that, and that has always been the problem.
Right.
So how can Parliament help us to be able to track the things that you have approved, for us to know what is going on? Maybe sometimes, for all you know, you are doing a genuine job.
They've been doing it, but I guess what you are asking for is, and so for me, if you ask me, I'll say the whole restructuring of government shouldn't just be looking at, the technocrats, right? But looking at our whole setup. The parliament itself, the various committees, and what type of reporting should be happening in each of those committees? What should the report contain? What appropriate levels of communications of this report should happen? Even how are these reports communicated? These meetings and these committee hearings that they conduct, how should they be set up? Format of those presentations itself, right? Because sometimes it become so contentious, you don't even know what's going on. People are just screaming at each other. But these things should all be looked at so that we are not just the work product from those hearings can help us really understand what is going on, can help us be better decision makers, because then we know how our resources are being spent. We will know, because of the structure of reporting that is required. Right off the top, are you disclosing this and that to me? How often are those disclosures made? If we don't invest in this, these are going to cost money too. If we don't invest in these monies, we'll continue to see the chaos we see now, where at the last minute of budget negotiations, there are political maneuverings as to whether we have the numbers to reject it or that. And if you reject a budget, I mean, the impact on senior citizens who are taking pension. I mean, there's so many impacts that you should consider about rejecting the budget. So why are we now working behind the scene within a framework, a structure that enables better decision making? So I think that should be part of the government restructuring that should happen, and not only the one we always see where they go and look at technocrats and fire some of them, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so I think it's a good one. I like the debate on this particular budget in Parliament. I followed it, and I think the minority came in strongly. And this is what I would encourage. I mean, it's all for the good of the country. Come in and state your position and let people know what you think. And I think that also puts government in check. That way, next time they're bringing a budget, they'll think twice, right? They'll not just come in bringing a budget to a house that doesn't scrutinize it and just give them the pass. So this thing, it has some medium term, control effect on everybody who is working in the government space. I mean, knowing that whatever I'm putting in the budget is going to be scrutinized very well in a very public space, and Parliament is going to come strong at it. So I think that kudos to the minority and the majority. I've enjoyed what has happened in Parliament in terms of the rejection and the approval. I have enjoyed every bit of it, and I think that, I mean, regardless of whatever anybody says, it was, for me, a good exercise. It was good that, and it exposed many Ghanaians to come to realize that in Parliament, things don't just happen by just shouting. You have to speak on point. You have to speak on law. You have to speak with, some standing orders backing you. You don't just get up and do stuff. And I think that education is good for many people. I think that many people don't understand governance and
what actually happens in Parliament.
Yes, people don't understand. So
exactly. They don't ask us if we have to go through all the standing orders.
Right. And so we'll be like, oh, me MP on Kasa. I'm like, when MP on Kasa, no, what is the issue? So Parliament don't just get up and you're talking. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's good education for everybody, for people to realize, hey, this house is a serious place. It's not any damn person that can go and sit out there and do the work of a parliamentarian. So you have to respect your minority leader, because it takes brains to get up and stand on your feet and use your standing orders to challenge an issue. You get what I'm trying to say?
Right.
So you don't come and dismiss and make the people who are in Parliament look as if they don't know what they're doing. They are stupid people. Let's appreciate people. People might have their challenges here and there, but I mean, whatever they're able to do in this environment, and now people are understanding that, hey, Parliament, okay, it's a good thing for all of us.
All right. Thank you so much. And today has been wonderful. Thanks for joining. You went through 3 different iterations of views. You went from your car to your room to your green screen, or so you can contribute to this program and continue to support its growth. We really appreciate everything you do for us, Daniel. I fixed your name on the flyer later on and posted it. So now I know. Sorry for screwing it up to start with. I really appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you and see you.
All right. So for today's show, that's it. We've discussed a lot. We went through the e-levy. We started with how the budget itself was titled, the business as building sustainable entrepreneurial nation, and whether we are going to be able to actually achieve that, whether that's something we should be very excited about or we should dampen our excitement for now, considering what has been allocated towards those entrepreneurial entities that perhaps will be seen for the future. We also talk about the piece that dealt with the fiscal consolidation and job creation, and we are saying that based on the consolidation that is going on and the amount of allocations we are seeing, that for you to actually grow jobs very robustly, that you need to increase some type of spending, or you need to spend more to actually have that happen. And then we looked at the broad underpinnings, the broad economic objectives of the 2022 budgets, and of course the medium-term goals that we have as a country, and some of which are that we would do debt sustainability, which means pay down some of our debts, making sure that we don't continue to take on more. And in this particular budget, the government stated that they're only going to go for 750 million. But they reserve the right to go for another 750 million as time goes on. And we have also discussed difficulties with consolidating or consolidation, and at the same time, revitalization. And it fits into this whole issue of fiscal consolidation and job creation, right? How are we going to contract at the same time, provide jobs? And then we touched on private sector development, which government is saying they needed a robust private sector to actually discover the opportunities that will be brought on by our membership, or our being the headquarters, or our being the country that is hosting the Africa Continental Trade Free Trade Union zone sort of for area, and also the banking sector. What we are going to be doing in terms of the development banks, whether we should actually start a new development bank or we should go back to the NIBs and the Agri Development Bank and restructure them. But then even that idea, one of the things we touched on was whether it makes sense, because then it means Agri Development Bank and NIB, which currently now have client-facing the organizational structures, would have to then spin off those already existing structures that they're invested in, and finally the restructuring that is going to be occurring in government, whether it's going to just mean laying people off, or whether that should actually be a thorough look at how government itself is structured, from the executive, the presidency, all the way through the legislature, the judiciary, etc., all the way through the technocrats, so that we are lean, mean, and able to save on government service delivery, taking advantage of technology, etc., etc. Well, that has been the Ghana Agenda for today. Thanks for watching us. We hope that you make a date with us again a week from today, and we would be bringing you people who speak for the various parties, and of course doing our research so we can bring you facts, data, and an analysis to the highest levels that you've ever had anywhere else on TV. My name is Alfred Amuzu. Thanks for watching the show. We will be back next week. Please share the link so that your friends can also benefit from all the analysis that we undertake on this program. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.